What is going on, Rippaverse? And Andrew here, and I am here with our three internal artists over at the Rippaverse. Welcome to the first episode, pilot episode, if you will, of Control Z. This podcast is so named because that is the function on the keyboard that, well, these gentlemen probably use quite frequently. Those of you who still work traditionally with pencil and paper don't have that option. I am so sorry. But hopefully, you guys have a great time with us, get some valuable insight from some of the best artists in the business. Each one of these gentlemen contributes so much here to our team and to the comic book industry as a whole because of what we're doing here at the Reverse. So, I'm going to go around the horn and introduce each of these gentlemen to you and allow them to give you a little insight on their history in the industry and what they've been working on. Kanan, our illustrious art director, please kick us off.
Right on. Hey, everybody. How's it going? My name is Kanan White, and I am the art director here at the Rippaverse. My art journey is pretty interesting. It's I've been doing it for a long time, say 20 plus years. And it's, you see highs and lows. And so, early on, of course, like anything, grade school, I drew. Used to have my brother draw a lot of stuff because I didn't know what I was doing. And so, talking like middle school or grade school. And then, of course, in the middle school, really started getting more into the comic stuff because, I'm a 90s baby, so we had the boom, the image boom. So you had, Jim Lee and all these other artists, Rob Liefeld and Silvestri. So that's my pedigree. That's where I come from. And so, the image was so different, it was so live, and so that immediately, gravitated toward that. And then, of course, some of the early Marvel stuff that, a lot of the image guys worked for before that. So that got me interested. My first taste of like a comic book that really jumped out at me was probably, the early 90s or late 80s. I can't remember when it came out, but it was Superman. And I guess he lost his powers. And so he was traveling with the Guardian. I don't know if you guys remember who the Guardian is. Chat, you might know who that is. He used the yellow helmet, the yellow shield, blue suit. Anyway, and so Superman, for whatever reason, he was off world, and he was just kind of fighting and doing whatever him and the Guardian were doing with. But I wasn't looking at it for the story. I can't remember who the artist was. I want to say it was Neil Adams, but it may not have been. I can't remember. But the anatomy like that, like I was like, oh my gosh, like I remember taking it home and just pouring over the comic book and just trying to recreate what I saw, and I would trace the muscles and all that stuff. And so that was the birthing place for like a passion for like the medium. But as far as wanting to do it, that didn't come until I read Frank Miller's Batman Returns, and I was like, yep, I'm going to do that for the rest of my life. I was like, I've never seen anybody take that like that. And the story was so gritty. It was so grimy. It was so Batman. It was darker. And so, I really didn't get into Batman, honestly, early on until Dark Knight Returns. Like that just opened my mind, and it was so stylized. And I think that's one of the reasons why it like captivated me. That was the first, not just graphic novel, but like book that I actually read from cover to cover multiple times. And it was just like, it was so engrossing. So, fast forward to, after high school, early college, I was working at a office place called like Office Depot, but it was called Office Max at the time here in town. And I was carrying my notebook and artwork with me, and just tons of stuff, just drawing. But I was at that point where I was kind of frustrated because I was like, I don't know where to go with this. I was like nobody does that here that I know. It's like, like what am I doing this for? And so I remember I was just sitting there and went to the it was called not Starbucks. What was it called? It was a coffee shop, regardless what it was. But I remember going there, and I just sat down, and I was just Borders. That's what it was. Borders. Actually, it was Borders. It's kind of Barnes and Noble was a precursor to that.
Borders bookstore. Yeah.
Yep. I love the Borders, but plays a place in my heart. But yeah. So I remember I would go there every day, and get my little white mocha latte, and just try to sit there and chill, man, drinking. I was just like, man, like what's next? And so I remember I was just like perusing the magazine stands, and at that time you had Wizard magazine, and you had all these other ones, Gaming Informer, and all that stuff, Imagine Effects. You had everything. Magazine was like really, really big then. And so I remember grabbing the Wiz World, and I would look through it all the time. And so I was like, okay, cool. So I'm looking through it and everything, and I got to this article, and I remember the picture it was just the picture of somebody's hands. They were drawing, and they were sitting at a desk, and they were drawing pages, and the title said, "If you're serious about comic books, keep reading." And I was like, and then unlocked DeviantArt, penciljack.com, digital webbing, like all these forums and stuff that I was like completely oblivious. That was our precursor. Now they got Instagram and TikTok. We didn't have that. We had forums.
ArtStation and all that.
Yeah, ArtStation, they had ArtStation, but we had, but to me, those forums were so personal, because when you would post your artwork, they would give you like these big rundowns and critiques. And, I think about like some of the kids nowadays, man, like sometimes wear their feelings on their sleeve. We got groomed and graded and and strengthened, man, with those brutal reviews and critiques, but it made us better artists. And so that was one of the, I met, like he's still a good friend of mine, even to this day. I know some people may have issues with this individual, but Mike S. Miller, he recruited some of my artwork, and I think he was working on, I want to say Game of Thrones or Hedge Knight, one of the books he was working on at the time. And he creaked it. He was like, "You're good." He's like, "Keep working at it." So a couple of years passed. Had my first convention. I think it was in 2004. And we were at portfolio reviews for, I think it was Image, and went there. And of course, the person that was critiquing the photos was Eric Larson, and he was infamous for being brutal. So there was a guy that was in front of me. I always tell this story because it's hilarious. He was in front of me, and he had his artwork ready. Of course, I had the giant little 11x17 portfolio books that people would always bring. Had the cellophane thing. You put your pages in. This dude came up with he had a freaking 8x11 clear thing with the slide ruler tab that you keep the stuff together on line paper. And I was like, okay. And so, he presented his stuff to Eric Larson, and he was like, what is this? And he was like, this is my work, this is my portfolio and stuff. He was like, get out of my, basically, this is crap, get out of my face kind of thing. He's like, but I went to art school. He's like, you need to get your money back. I was like,
yeah.
Dang. I was like, yo, man, I was like, do I want to
so, Savage Dragon, Savage Larson.
Yeah, yes. And so I was like, okay. So I was up. I was literally right behind him. And so I took my work and presented it to him. The first thing he said, he was like, okay, now you're good. He said, you're good. And then he proceeded to tear it up and tell me how bad it was. He said, but I'll give you a couple of years and I think you'll be ready. And so shortly after that, I got, probably about 4 years, because at that time I was working for a church doing some graphic design and video editing and all that stuff. Went to a convention and met with Avatar, or I think I submitted to Avatar Press at the time, and got the job to do actually like 2 war books. One was Uber, which was like a twisted version of World War II, but it was actually really good. It wasn't just graphic nature. Anybody knows the Avatar Press is, how their books are, crossed. It was Black Summer, all those other books. It was real to me like epic. That was also one of the companies that kind of opened my eyes to like what comics could be more than just your standard DC Marvel. But started working, got a job working with some of them, and then fast forward, then shifting more toward the freelancing, and then started working with a lot of indie creators. That was kind of like the boom where indie creators started coming out with like Kickstarter and Indiegogo and things like that. And eventually, fast forward, eventually led me here. And it's I always think about, I had opportunity to be an intern at Top Cow and work with Mark Silvestri and individuals like that. And it wasn't time. And I believe that none of the time that you take is wasted time. What I've taken and done things differently, yeah, but at the same time, I don't regret the art journey to get me to this point, as I shared with you, Andrew, and Igor, and Marcos, and even other individuals. Being able to bring what I bring to this company is because of the years of mess ups, mistakes, successes, failures, all those various different things to kind of get you to this point to be able to take artists, pour into them, give them tips. And because between that stint before getting into the Rippaverse, I actually taught a semester at a college, no degree, none of that. But they were so impressed because all I did was teach the fundamentals. I was like, this is just standard illustration. I was teaching like illustration 2 and 3 and 4 kids. I was like, y'all didn't do anatomy in perspective. I was like, you guys don't know that? So it blew my mind. And so the first day I was like, what do you guys want to learn? I told them to put the topics in the hat, and everybody was like, well, you just want to learn the basics. And so that's what we did. And so the class was complete. I threw out the syllabus because I didn't understand what they were talking about anyway. I was like, we're going to do it like this. And so it was completely framed for the kids. And so taking all that knowledge, fast forward all the way to here. I'm excited, man. Like this is the first place I've been. And sometimes people are like, you just saying that because you work in the Rippaverse. I'm like, this is the best place I've ever been. I really love the Rippaverse, But no, like legit, man. Like it's one of the few places, and I'd probably say the most I've felt at home to truly create and allow what's in me be able to really share with other people. So that was a long story, but that's how I got into comics, kids. So yeah, that's my story.
What's one or two of your favorite pieces you've worked on here at the Rippaverse so far, brother?
Oh man, you know what?
That you can actually
Give
talk about. Don't make me tap the sign.
right.
Don't make me do it.
All of them.
There are others that are NDA, but I can't say those. No, I would say probably the long boxes or the short boxes. I mean, like I liked this, the recent short box what I saw was cool, but the first one was so iconic because it had like all his moments, like his key moments and stuff. So that was really good. And then probably second one would probably, man, it's between the Ripazine covers and probably Gooding. I'm thinking probably the Gooding poster where he's promoting himself. So you see like all the different
services.
Okay, Gooding and then Yaira. Like the Yaira where she's above the city. That's probably one of my favorites. That was fun. That was like our Wonder Woman, man. Like she was like that was like her epic debut. So that was fun. But probably those three.
Right on. Those are all great pieces. And what's super cool is
too.
Yeah. Well, like, look, the fans, we all know.
Right.
And you guys, please, in the comments, let us know your favorite Kanan White piece that he's done. Doesn't matter if it's cover, poster, t-shirt, all of that. And we'll have you do that for all of our artists here because they're all fantastic in each of their own styles. So please let us know in the comments what your favorite piece is from Eigor, Kanan, and Marcos that you've seen posted or published. Please do that. Also, quick note before we continue. Any super chats or super comments? Is that what YouTube's calling them now? Sure, why not? We'll address those in the following episodes. So we're going to be making this a monthly podcast as our goal, and we will address super chats and super comments and all that, and some just other just standard regular comments that aren't tied to super chat type stuff. We'll address those in the following episode. But Kanan, thank you so much for elevating all of our artists here, for bringing
Mine, man.
like the full breadth of your experience to the Rippaverse and allowing us to have that insight, because every bump in the road on your journey was still part of that same road that led you here.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
I wouldn't have it any other way. Let's pass the baton on over to our fantastic concept artist, the man behind the hand, behind the designs.
Yes, sir.
And behind the no picture and no camera. But
Behind an avatar too.
behind an app, I always am.
The pulsing avatar.
I hope everybody's having a good Halloween season. By the way, this has been probably the best year so far, in my opinion. Honestly, here working at the Rippaverse, the amount of work and designs that I've been working on has been like skyrocketed. And Andrew, you know that you know that more than anybody, I think.
Yes,
Awesome.
I've seen you pour out dozens upon dozens of designs this year for books that aren't even going to be out until next year. So
Yeah, NDAs,
there's a lot of
NDAs galore.
There's going to be a lot of stuff that you guys see in the very near future that Marcos had a hand in designing alongside our various writers. So look forward to that. But Marcos, give us the brief overview on your artistic journey and what led you here to the Rippaverse, and also what a couple of your favorite designs that you've had a hand in are.
That's gonna be rough. When it comes to my journey, though, it's kind of hard to pinpoint when it started, because I was always like drawing, even as a kid. People used to like make fun of me and my art. I remember in elementary school we had an art class, and that's probably when I first learned about what the hell art was, because I used to just draw random, dribbles and stuff. And the teacher taught me how to draw a flag. I was like, okay, there's something, and they made fun of me. I was like, okay, I don't care. Eventually kept growing up. I kept drawing regardless of what people said. And when I didn't really used to be a big like comic book reader or anything like that. I was kind of just a normie through my youth in regards to that. But I would end up always going to like my parents' bedroom to just take naps randomly and just grab a comic book off the shelf, because they have a shelf full of like old Archie's comics and Donald Duck and Scrooge, like this Disney comics. I don't know what they were called. And that's what I would used to read and just delve into the comedy in those comics and just enjoy that for what it was. But I'll be honest, I'm kind of like Kanan. I didn't really care much about the story. I was just there to look at the art on the comics.
Just the pictures.
Is the yeah, I was a kid. It was like, all right, this looks attractive, the drawings and whatnot. But then it was like when I was in 8th grade, that's when I started getting into comics, like in a independent way, like because I had this Spanish class. It was like a weird class. We had to like write a story for a project, and I was like, I don't really want to write. I want to draw. And the teacher gave us the option to draw like a comic of whatever story we want. And so I made up some small supernatural inspired story, literally based off the TV series, because I was a fan back then, and just did a random story of some guys fighting demons and stuff as a comic. And the teacher, I think she didn't like it, because I don't remember if I got a good grade, but I ended up doing 2 different stories, one in comic and one writing. But I kept going. I liked the idea that I had going for the little comic project, so I kept on it on my own on the side. And as for like the college, I had already rewritten it like 3 times, or actually no, like 5 or 7. But every time I would upgrade it, it was just based on my knowledge that I had gained over the years drawing and learning how to write and stuff. And yeah, and then I ended up finding out this website, Tapastic or something like that. Is a web where you would post comic books online, kind of like webtoons.
I remember that. I think I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, around the same time, that's the first time I bought a digital tablet. So that's when I upgraded from traditional to the digital. And that's actually when I started to read more digital comics through that website, and started to get a taste of how like people lay out panels and handle their art. mostly anime in there because people like that anime style. But it led me to want to do comics digitally, in a sense, because I was looking at that stuff like, oh man, that's pretty. Now that I'm gonna learn digital art, I might as well just try my hand at it. And it went for the time being. I didn't really out of it. And then after college, I wasn't really sure what I was gonna do. My degree was just in art. Like, I didn't do much. I don't think it does much anymore when it comes to like basic degree. And I'm not crochet or an art degree. That's not what I'm saying, but I ended up just doing commissions for people on random websites, designs. I even did brand silhouettes or some probably unknown people on. How I met up with Eric at some point because I was just scrolling through YouTube with my friend, and he was like, Eric is looking for some artists for a project, and then he mentioned comics and character designs. I sent him an email, sent him some of my art. He liked it immediately the same day. Sent me an email back and kind of, I wouldn't say hired because it was just commissions, random. So told me, let's draw this, see how you do. Ended up liking all the designs. We eventually, like a year later, he actually officially hires me to the Rippaverse, and then here we are. Like, it all led to this, and I've been growing ever since, thanks to Kanan mostly. Because honestly, Kanan, you said earlier you were you were teaching recently, up till recently. I wish I was there, honestly, because I would have loved to be learning with you from like way
Definitely.
like years ago, man.
Well, I mean,
Because
thank you.
no, yeah, go ahead.
No, so I mean, that's an honor, man. Like you've definitely, I've NDA won't say anything, but I've seen some recent designs you did for Andrew, man, and they are leaps and bounds from just the stuff that's already in the catalog. Like, people are going to be blown away. Like, your concepts now are actually like pieces. It's not like just okay, rough this out real quick and stuff like the detail and the quality, man. Like, I was just like, dude, like, I can tell you've been putting in the work. And so, yeah, hats off to you, man. Like, you definitely are coming into your own, and that's awesome. So,
Watching his
Thanks.
level up with your guidance has been so cool to see, and
oh,
same
thank
with Igor as well. Like, both of them have leveled up in such a
you. Igor
short
don't need
period
no
of
teaching,
time.
though.
Oh,
They're both already great, but under
shut your
your
mouth.
guidance and your kind of guiding hand, like, you've really helped elevate, and that's the best word for it. You're elevating people with talent to maximize the talent that they have. And Marcos's designs, to your point, have leveled up tremendously. Like, I'm seeing
Yeah,
some of these new pieces come through
yep,
and get submitted that he's doing for these forthcoming books. I'm just like, wow, man. Like,
yeah.
but
Hey, it's
there
my
are a
honor.
couple of books that are upcoming that he recently started designs on, and I messaged him back and forth with him, being like, "Man, this is some of your best work right here." And then outside of that, even Marcos, some of these more like fully rendered out pieces that you've
Yep,
been doing
yep,
recently, like
yep.
that
Oh yeah,
Lillian, Ursha, like those, man, chef's kiss. Like, you've not just leveled up. It's like the jump from Super Saiyan to Super Saiyan 2 when it's
Yeah,
it's like that ridiculous of a leap. So
it,
props
it,
to you, man,
it's
because you have to be
funny.
a
Thanks.
teachable person
Yes,
to do that.
Thanks,
it
man.
it's one of those things, Marcos, where, and I always told my son this, and when he did it, you could see, like, it's crazy to physically see somebody change skill wise, and it's just like, dang. Like, I told him, like, when he was in high school, he 1 year just to say, he's like, Dad, I just want to draw every day. I was like, well, you gotta keep your school. That's first and foremost. You can do the other stuff extra. And so he would, of course, do his schoolwork, and then he would draw for like 8 hours. Now, if I showed you my son's stuff, it's probably, I'm not like blowing smoke. It's probably 2 or 3 steps under myself, and he's 18.
Yeah, so the the
He looking for
projection is
work?
great, right? Yeah.
Right. His future is great. And so, all that to say, I always tell people it's mileage. Like, don't get frustrated with what it looks like currently, because, as you know, Marcos, Igor, and even Andrew, when you write, you improve. You make mistakes, and like somebody told me years ago, don't try to perfect the page, Kanan. He's like, just get better with the next one. And it always is hard for me to understand, but now I get it. Like, okay, yeah, I'm like, okay, take what you learned from that, add to this, add a little bit more to the next one, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, Marcos, man, you're a beast, bro.
It's a process, yeah.
It's a process that is so cool to witness.
Yes.
Within
Yes.
all of our artists, that our contracted artists as well, seeing them improve with each new piece and each new page that they do. So credit to all of the artists out there that are of a teachable nature and a teachable demeanor, and who have that desire to just continue to improve on their craft, because that's a lot of people think that they're just the bee's knees right off the bat, and maybe they are comparative to others around them, but you can always improve no matter how good you are. You can always find that next step, even if it's a marginal improvement. You can find something within your work like, you know what, I feel like I can get better here, and it will make a noticeable difference. And those things just compound on one another. That goes for art and it goes for writing.
That level of like separating yourself from the work that you do, like don't take it personally. That takes a lot, man. Like, to just show an image to someone and like don't expect compliments, like expect like reality. Like, you're gonna get feedback and it's not gonna be nice sometimes. You have to allow yourself.
Sometimes it might be Eric Larson.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it might be someone
brutally
savage. He is forever Savage Larson.
So you have to learn, like, and that takes a while to do, like, for sure, to get used to.
Absolutely. And as a perfect segue, Eigor, let's pass it on over to you. Ladies and gentlemen in the chat, you know Eigor. He's the man behind virtually all of the web graphics that you end up seeing across our website and on our social media. I damn near broke his hand during the Ice on One launch when he was having to draw stuff in 35 minutes because y'all kept breaking all of our milestones faster than we could keep up with them. But Eigor, my friend, please give us a little insight into your journey and your experience in comics, and what some of your favorite pieces are that you've done here so far, and what some of your favorite characters are to draw so far.
Oh yeah, that's easy. But yeah,
I think I already know what they are, but the chat doesn't already know what they are.
Yeah, they sure don't, because they don't just see the drawings, right? Like, whoever follows me can get like a little bit more insight into what I do. But yeah, so about my art journey, I think I feel like some similarities between what Marcus was saying and what Kanan was saying. It's funny, actually, because we've come from different places, obviously, like even different countries. So like culture, everything surrounding, like it's very different. I was born in a small town, and my parents used to move a lot. My mom's a teacher, and my father's a salesman. So I was born during the worst economic period in Brazil. Like, my birthday is on the highest inflation day historically that Brazil ever had. So
it's
like, it wasn't a good time. Yeah, it wasn't a good time
hair
to be
care, bro.
That hair care. He drove up inflation on shampoo. This man
like
is who y'all should blame.
Yeah, so it wasn't easy for Brazil when I was born. But yeah, so my parents used to...
Sorry. You were born with long hair. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah.
Born with that is Rippaverse internal lore. Igor was born with a full
and there's always
those
winds, right? Like,
powers in the hair.
God forbid I ever go bald.
Don't say things like that. Don't say things like that. You'll break my heart.
Kane is right there. What are you doing?
Yeah, man, I shouldn't be talking about that. Like, sorry, you brought up the hair. Like, it wasn't me.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, I was born in a small town in Brazil, so there wasn't like enough resources for like art classes or anything like that. So I used to draw like I was always drawing. Like my mom has drawings when I was 4, like, and I
Mhm.
was telling stories. Like my dad was fixing something because my dad is that kind of dad, like that's always fixing something in the house. And would always be with him, and they would give me like pen and paper just to sketch, scribble things. And I was drawing like this hammer going and hitting the nail, and then like my dad saw that and gave me like old sales book when
Yeah,
he had used them already. So I would draw on the verse because it was blank, and I would like draw small comics like one page turn, like a panel a page. And like I have a ton of those. My mom has a ton of those, like
that's
back when I
awesome.
was 7, 8, all the way through like middle school, high school. So I was always drawing. Like it was my comfort zone was drawing. If I got grounded, I got grounded without drawing. Like that was
Yeah.
the punishment for
Wow,
misbehaving in
that's
my house.
Yeah.
brutal.
Yeah, because I enjoyed it so much, and like yeah, we didn't have. I had video games all the way until I was like 8, and then I didn't have a computer, so drawing was like the most fun activity I could have. Uh, and then when I was 18, I knew I wanted to draw. I didn't want to do anything else, so I decided to go to São Paulo, which is the biggest city in Brazil, and I wanted to try and get into the biggest university we have in Brazil. It's called the University of São Paulo because they have an art course there, and I thought it would be a good idea to get in. It's very competitive. São Paulo is the richest state in Brazil, so everyone's very well prepared. I was from like a small city, like I said, so I didn't have a lot going for me, but I decided to go anyway. My parents were very supportive, which I
Awesome.
I say sometimes that it's a mistake by them because I could have done something else, but it all turned out in the end, like turned out well in the end. Uh, but yeah, they were very supportive. My dad drove me like 800 kilometers. I don't know how many miles that is, but
It's far.
it's a lot. Found a place for me. I stayed there. I started studying. I worked part-time jobs as a waiter, as like a lot of other stuff, in LAN houses and internet cafes, I would say. Uh, and then I kept drawing. I kept drawing all the time. And then I got into university and started studying art. And the university was very demanding. São Paulo is a very large city, so you spend a lot of time commuting. So I would spend like 3 hours on a bus. If it rained, like I would be stuck in traffic forever. And I would keep drawing, like
Yeah.
just have sketchbook, keep drawing like all the time, drawing people on the bus, like drawing stories, designing characters, whatever. And the university was what I was expecting, so they didn't have like that strong of a drawing foundation. They were more into modern artwork. I remember vividly like looking at the grades, at the classes that I would have, and the one of the ones that catch my eye was drawing based on observation. So you
Mhm.
had to observe and draw, and I was like, "Oh man, this is gonna be so nice! I'm gonna draw so much different stuff, get feedback." I never had feedback in my life. I didn't have someone to tell me
That's
what was wrong or not. So like I was 19 at this point. I should have like mentoring or something like that because you can improve without that. But it turned out like the professor asked for abstract drawings. I
uh,
didn't want to go into figurative drawing because that's seen as lesser
yeah.
than like modern art and stuff. So, and that was basically the whole university. Was a lot of time and not a lot of time to draw because I had to work, I had to study, you have to read a lot. And yeah, I spent 3 years doing that, trying my best to improve while I was there. And I got to know a few artists that worked at the art school in Brazil called Quanta,
Mm.
and a lot of big name artists for Marvel and DC were teachers there. So Renato Guedes, Ivan Reis, a
Oh,
lot of like big names from the previous generation, Marcelo Campos, Otávio Cariello. Brazil has a long history of like comic book artists, so they were all teaching there, And I was like, yeah, this is the place that I have to go. University is not going to help me. I'm going to keep studying, but I have to meet these people, get feedback, something like that. And I actually got a scholarship there, so I would pay like very little to study there.
That's awesome.
And I started my basic drawings course, thinking that I would go into comics straight away. But they said, yeah, you need to learn fundamentals first, because back then, like, I didn't have a reference, so I thought I was a good artist, but
Yeah.
turned out I was like, there's always someone there like to
Yeah,
tell
same
you
here.
about that. Yeah, so
They
you
humble
always
you
learn.
quickly.
Yeah, very quickly. Like, just looking at the
Hmm.
walls, they
Yes.
had like the pencil pages by different artists. I was like, damn,
Right.
that's
Like,
very far from from my reach. But yeah, and then I met a ton of different artists that were willing to help me, like give feedback.
it's awesome.
And the most exciting experience that I had there was I studied there for 2 years, drawing, basic drawing, and then comics. And they had the portfolio day where they sent an email like, send your artwork, and we're gonna have a portfolio review day for you guys. We're gonna choose like 15, and then that's it. And I was one of the chosen ones, and
Yeah.
the portfolio review was by CB Cebulski,
Oh
which
wow.
is like, yeah, he was a recruiter back then for Marvel,
Yeah.
and I don't remember the name of the recruiter for DC, but we didn't know that we will be like portfolio review by Marvel and DC. When I got there and I learned that, and I saw that the teachers were showing work as well, I was like, I'm gonna get the hell out of here. Like, these are my first pages, were my first sample pages.
Yeah.
I don't have like the right to be here. It's
Oh,
gonna be, but then one of the teachers started talking to me, and like we got into a conversation. When I saw it was my time, I was the only one that spoke English, like very broken English, but I could speak with them. So it was like very enlightening. They pointed out a bunch of stuff that I could get improve on my work, the
it's
stuff that I
awesome.
was doing right. It was like mind opening for me, and I was like, for the first time, I was thinking, yeah, maybe I can do this for a living. Like, if I work hard, I can do this. And one of the teachers back then showed me pencil jack and digital
Yes.
webbing. And when I said that, I was like, yeah, that's the stuff. That's the stuff that got me
Salute
my
to
first.
Pencil Jack.
Yeah,
Go.
yeah, yeah. Because those forums are so
Yes.
great.
Yes, they
And
were.
then I would borrow a computer from a roommate that I had, and I would use his computer during the night where when he was sleeping, and send my portfolio, send my pages around, got a few like small gigs, and then I started working with it. And then I got a scholarship to study illustration in England
Mm.
when I was at the University of Derby. So I went there for a year. I got really lucky to be selected. I learned English by myself because I didn't with my family didn't have money to pay for a school or anything else. And in Brazil, most people don't speak English. So I got lucky that I learned through comics and stuff like that. And then I went to study illustration for a year and started working. Like, got jobs
That's awesome.
in independent companies, a lot of Kickstarter
Yep.
campaigns. I started working as a concept artist for a small movie company in Brazil, designed horror creatures for them for like almost 4 years. Then I met Eric because I was doing work for Being Libertarian. It's a page that he ran with a lot of other people, amazing people. And then he contacted me. I'm starting a comic book company. I would like someone to design shirts, do illustrations that will help the campaign, a lot of different stuff. I was like, yeah, I'm game. Let's do
Awesome.
this. I was already familiar with what he was saying, what he saw that was a problem in the comic book industry. Yeah, it was like a blessing for me.
That's
Was
awesome.
really, really, really good in one more than one aspect. Like Marcus was saying, like just the sheer volume of work that we do
Yeah.
makes us improve so much. Like
Yes.
Yeah.
it's the best thing that you can have. Like if you get a chance to, like, if you're a beginner artist and get a chance to start working on something, just do it, because it's much better than just doing personal stuff. Like a lot of people are very disciplined and they can go and do personal job and work on personal portfolio, But if you have someone breathing down your neck, like not literally, because as everyone here
Is that
can
a
attest,
personal
like
attack or something?
No,
like
Andrew.
if anyone was doing that, was the
Try,
fans.
Igor.
Like the fans were the ones doing that, because we have a lot of freedom in
Yeah.
this company. Like Kanan was saying, like this is the most rewarding experience you can have professionally. You get to do what you want. Like
It almost doesn't seem real a lot of sometimes,
yeah,
but it's
yeah,
like
for sure.
Yeah.
it is, you know.
Yeah, and then like we get feedback, we give each other feedback, but it's always nice. Like we that's the reason why I feel we're improving so much, because we
Yeah.
have like the perfect environment for producing a lot, and being able to make mistakes and correct them, and just
Yep.
like keep growing. Like there is no outside influence to it, in the sense that we're scared of saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing. Like we know we're safe, we're taken care of, and then we can improve ourselves, because we don't want to. That's what I think, a lot of artists, they don't want to suck at their job, right? Like we want to improve,
Yeah.
but then when you have some certain factors coming in, like you cannot produce well. Like you're not going to be able to put out your best work, and I feel like the company allows us to do that. But yeah, I missed a lot of stuff. I want to give one shout out throughout my career. I worked with a lot of different people, even from our circle, like Jack Lloyd, Project Niosis. Yeah, a lot of different people. I won't be able to remember everyone. Like, but I worked with an Australian company that gave me my first full book,
Mm. Yeah.
called Killer Comics. I'm a big horror fan, and they did this comic that was like ultra violent, exaggerated, kind of superhero horror esque stuff. And I did like a couple of filler pages for them. I used to draw traditionally. Those are traditional pages. They
Yes.
are hidden here
Wow.
somewhere. Like I used to paint with a brush because I didn't have a computer, and then I got a tablet at some point, and then things were improving. I didn't color anything, but yeah, I did 4 pages for them, and they were like, "Would you like to turn this into a full book? Like we can do a full issue of the story with only your artwork?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." Didn't have a job, didn't have anything. I just
What an
grind.
offer.
Yeah, 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 and some crazy shots they had. Like, I remember this shot of like 3 people in a motorcycle, and then a sniper shoot through them. And I
Oh
was like,
man.
yeah, man,
Damn.
how am I gonna draw this? I don't know how to
Triple
draw
kill.
anything. Like I was 24 at the time. So it was a lot of challenges, and they allowed me something that Eric always did as well. They allowed me to have freedom to try different
Yep.
angles, fail, try
Yep.
again. And that was like, so shout out to Killer Comics. Duncan was amazing for me. And every single client that I had after that was like just improving my artwork. I haven't stopped working with the art in the last 10 years, so
Yeah.
can't complain.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. What are your two favorite characters to draw here at the Rippaverse so far, and then we'll get to Marcos's two favorite
Uh,
designs.
Horseman, because I got to draw him recently, and I feel like I did some of my best work there.
I agree.
Uh,
Killed it.
Yes,
and
sir.
Magus Numite, because it's a monster, and like yeah, I can not choose that. Like if I could, I would draw him more. I'm sad the campaign is over and we get to draw other stuff now. I could draw like him forever, like in different poses, different like close-ups of like his disgusting face or something. I would love that, because I love the concept. Like Marcus did such a good job with that.
He did.
And
I'm trying
yeah,
to hold my
just
tongue because I almost NDA'd something, but never mind.
yeah, yeah. We have a lot of stuff
Don't say that,
going on.
Marcos.
I'll- yeah.
But yeah, those are my two favorite characters to draw. One of my favorite pieces, the one that I'm wearing right now, like this piece for Braxwell's shirt,
Mm,
because he was my favorite character up until like recently, and I got to draw like the shirt that, so it was like very good for me. Like I was very happy with it.
that's awesome.
But yeah, that's the some of the horseman pieces that I did recently were some of my favorite. The one we used on the Ripazine one, definitely. I enjoy drawing background, and I
That
don't
was a
get to
great
do
alpha
that a
core
lot.
piece you did.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
I got to draw some background and set up a scene. I really enjoy that. I like drawing. I'm one of those artists that enjoy drawing background a lot. So I
I
don't
do
know.
too.
You're a freaking
Yeah,
unicorn.
yeah, I like, but then with the job we don't get to do that a lot because I have to draw a lot of different poses for the characters.
Yeah.
So you end up like not having enough time, and whenever I can, I like to throw in like a few lines, just a perspective grid to feel
Yep.
happy.
That Rippaverse anniversary piece you did with Horseman, that was
Oh,
fun. I could tell you
yes,
had I could
yes.
tell you had fun setting up that scene.
Yeah, that was nice.
Horseman
Yeah,
and
I like
Chuck and
that.
Joe and all that.
Yeah, yeah, that
That
was
was
really
cool.
nice. Yeah, that was a nice idea to make. Yeah, it's all fun. Like I can't complain. Like you get to draw a lot of different characters. It's never the same.
Yep.
So there is no better job than this.
Amen to that, brother. Marcos Amigo, what were your two favorite designs that you've done so far here?
Yeah, we kind of rabbit holed out of that one earlier.
Yeah.
But um, obviously, I was thinking about one of the recent inks that I did. The first one with Lillian.
Hmm.
That was probably like just a favorite of in a long time. Because you know how I do a lot of stuff. Usually, it's just a lot of concepts and some illustrations here and there. But the particular reason I like that Lillian ink that I did was because it was one of the times where I actually managed to really hone in on what I learned from Kanan regarding the inks. Because all the black, all the white, it made just. You remember, Andrew? I was like going through the process of the drawing with you, and I ultimately wanted to color it, but I ended up not choosing to because it looked so good, like just the ink.
Yeah, I don't want to
I
ruin it.
was gonna.
Like
You're right.
I know the
I
feeling.
remember I had a base color and all. Yeah, yeah, you know what it is. But
Hmm.
I couldn't. I just couldn't. The only thing I ended up coloring, I think, was a little effects on the purple. But it was that piece, and this might be probably a callback. It's one of my other favorites was a Yaira drawing that I did back in the first year of the
Mm.
Rippaverse, where I was just posting daily sketches on my Twitter, which I would put like time lapses as well. It was one of Yaira like just flying towards us. I can't
Mm.
remember what day it was, but it was basically Yaira like launching herself towards us. I don't know, something about the pose that I really liked, like, and the expression on her face is about to break through the screen that I liked about it. It was one of the action, more action focused pieces that I did back then. But yeah, basically Yaira and Lillian. That's all you need to know. I would
Yeah.
say more, but I don't want to NDA because I've done a lot of. There's a lot of characters y'all don't aren't even ready for yet.
That's
And
probably one of my
That
yes,
is
favorite pieces you did, Marcos, was the yeah, Deborah at the drawing table. And yeah, Yaira
Oh
up on
yeah,
oh
yeah,
yeah,
that was a
the
very good one.
anniversary.
that was great.
yeah, that was dude, that was like
Anniversary one.
that
That
was
was a
really
fun one. Yeah.
really good. You told a whole story, man, just with that.
Yeah.
She said boobies.
Jerk. Boobies. Yeah,
That was a fun
that was a
piece.
fun piece actually. Yeah.
Very
I
well
also
done.
did the other one, the one with the pigeons and the packages
Mm.
coming out of the headquarters. There's a lot of characters in that one. I remember. But yeah, the Deborah one was really fun. I
You took
actually
That was a really
I
great
tried
Sometimes
my
we
one.
actually
best.
forget like the stuff that we do.
Yeah.
Oh
When
yeah,
you're
I did
drawing
that.
as many pieces as you guys are picking out, yeah, I'm not surprised. Looking, I did draw that, didn't I? Like, oh
Dude, that
yeah.
is
Yeah.
for those who use Procreate, that is the biggest stack on my iPad. It's just
Oh
Rippaverse
man.
stuff. It's like it's like
I
yeah.
have a Dropbox account just for like Rippaverse files, like just for my
Rip,
Rippaverse files. Like I constantly update it. Like
Yep. Yep.
I did a collage,
the
a
Ripper
collage
box.
of yeah, Ripperbox. I did a collage of
Ripper
like
box.
every piece that I did last year, and I was like, this is almost like a piece every 3 days, full colored piece.
Yeah.
Like I had more than 100. Like there are 365 days in the year, so
That's
that's
crazy.
like almost 3 days each piece. Like a lot of stuff. That's how you improve in the end. Like I feel
Yeah.
like you can always take feedback, obviously, all that sort of stuff that we were talking about, but like making stuff, That's how you improve. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Actual
no,
drawing
absolutely. Absolutely fantastic. Well, next, thank you guys for the intro. Hopefully you guys found that valuable insight into the backgrounds when it came to the comic book experience for Kanan, Igor, and Marcos. Next, we're going to take you through some time-lapse pieces that they created, especially for this stream and especially for Rippaverse members. These pieces will all be available for members of the website. So go to rippaverse.com/members and sign up for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get one of these. Well, you get all of these available to you. You'll see the finished pieces. They look absolutely fantastic. They're all Halloween themed. The guys had a ton of fun making them. I had a ton of fun looking at them when they finished. So we'll get some insight into the process for each one by the artists themselves, and get a little bit of commentary as well. So let me
Yeah.
prep this one first. We will start with our illustrious phenom, the great Kanan White. And here we go, Kanan. Here we go. All right, Kanan. So take us through this process as we go. I'll pause as needed.
Okay.
And let us know what was going through your head when you were trying to lay out this piece. Did you have other initial ideas in your head of what you were thinking about you might want to do for your layout? Just kind of give us the walkthrough of it.
Well, I mean, it's one of the things, like, I always try to see a concept. I'll try to think differently than what's your standard. So with him, I think the initial design was just, coming up with the pose for more than anything, and being Halloween based. I was like, Splatterpuss would be a perfect one because he's kind of crazy, And a lot of times when I'm coming up with a concept, it's kind of like snap image. Like I see exactly like that's what I want to do.
Mhm.
And then it's kind of maybe working backwards. I'll see the full image of what I want to do, and then sometimes it's like then I'll work backwards on how to do it. So like a lot of times with my sketches, and I know it went by quick, but I go through a lot of iterations on like poses and the hand position and head shape and direction, and because you always want to get the most powerful image, with the most dynamic pose. And so I wanted to like not just show him stabbing a pumpkin, but I wanted to actually show almost like the tension of him like cutting through it, but not just cutting through it, but with like a insane ferocity, like like kind of like
Almost
thing.
like he's
So
cutting through a human head. Is the way
yeah, because
he's got the
initially it was
motion
actually
We can't have that on this stream.
going.
well, initially it was actually going to be. I was like, should I make a Gooding head? I was like, that's kind of graphic.
Oh.
Yeah.
But I was like, but then whatever. But that was
Gooding
one
fans
goes,
in the chat might take issue with that.
Yeah.
but hey man, blame it on the creepy pastas. No, but it was one of those things where I really wanted to like his hand. In my head, I'm like thinking like white knuckled. That term when you're grabbing it so hard, and you can actually see like and without color. And that's one of the things that I've learned to do with my style. And there's artists that do that, where the inks and the lines can actually breathe on their own, and then color is actually an addition. It's a bonus. It just it enhances. And so I always wanted to try to make my inks, my pencils and stuff resonate on their own. So I really wanted to, since I didn't have color, and I knew I wasn't coloring because I'm not coloring anything.
I'm not doing that noise. Ain't nobody got time for that.
I wanted to show
I don't need color.
exactly as much as possible the tension and the intensity of like really showing like almost like you could feel the muscles ripping, like you could feel him grabbing the table, pulling back, almost like he's holding on to the edge of the table to keep his balance as he's literally gutting this pumpkin more than you actually would need to, but for him it's more than just cutting it open. It's like it's a thrill, because he's able to live out some warped fantasy of cutting people open. So but yeah, so as you see now, we're to the actual rendering, and with the rendering always try to find a light source. Try to vary it a little bit. But as y'all know, Igor and Marcos, a lot of times, when you're working with black and white, generally people actually light it from the same direction. It's not sometimes it's like a default. But I've been trying to play around with that, like really like adding, because you're ever learning as an artist, man. Like you never, I don't think you never truly arrive. Like it's one of those things that you're constantly adding to the the Rolodex of your inventory. And so with his face, I really wanted to add some of the dark shadow on the face to kind of show the kind of sinister feel, almost like a Joker-esque type personality. And those that have read Gooding, kind of how Splatterpuss is. He's kind of that type of guy, man. Very sadistic, very, he was a bully. No spoilers. If you haven't read Gooding too much, but to the just man, he's just that type of character. And so, I thought it'd be interesting showing him and kind of add an ominous feel. And always, even when I'm doing the black and white, I kind of see it in color as well. As you can see here, I'm actually trying out different stuff. I do that a lot, man. Like for me, I feel like the conceptualizing doesn't end. So even when I'm rendering things, like I don't like that. I'll render. I remember Jim Lee said, he's like, don't be locked into anything. He works traditionally, so he's like, sometimes I just need to erase a whole arm that I render or whatever. Don't be committed to that. Sometimes you have to just take it off. And so, that's one of the things, like, I can render a whole thing, and if it just ain't working, I'll erase it. I'll start over, I'll tweak it, I'll adjust it. And sometimes you got to walk away from it, which I did a couple of times, and then came back to it. And you'll actually see as this progresses, I actually flip the image too. I think it's coming up, but when you flip it, sometimes it just vibes that direction. It's hard to describe. Kind of like, I know there's probably a technical term for it. I know some, because you have artists that are right or left eye dominant. So it's good to flip your image. I know me and Marcus were talking about that not too long ago in the chat. It's good to flip it anyway.
Yeah.
Because if you're right or left,
you can see mistakes and stuff.
Exactly. It can drift toward the right lane and it looks oblong when you flip it. But sometimes when you flip it, it just works that direction. It's like, man, that just feels right, And so I was vibing with this because it's the concept. I was like, no, but then I flipped it and it's like his face it seemed like it just popped. Like it popped out and like even more like that. That's what I was looking for. So again, like I said, adding, like, playing with the the concept of him, cutting open the pumpkin, and then adding the whole ominous with the candles in the background. Like I said, I always see it kind of in color too. So if Igor, if you ever colored my artwork,
I'll think about
super dope.
On that note, actually,
no, he said he was scared.
Members who get Kanan's Splatterpuss piece, if you are a colorist, why don't you take a shot at coloring this black and white piece and tagging us, and if we really dig it, we'll show it off on the next show. What do we think about that?
I think
I would love to see that. Like,
it's always interesting to see how people kind of interpret the information. Y'all know how I am with colorists.
Well, it's funny because artists understand their own lines and that better than anybody else, and that's why you have some artists like Eigor, like Marcos, like you, guys like Will Conrad, among others, Michael Montanat, who's doing our Bloodruth book. They don't even pass their line work on to somebody else. They're like, no, I'll link my own stuff. They've educated themselves in that craft enough to where they don't even want to risk somebody else misinterpreting their lines. So they're just like, I'll just do it my damn self. And it's an extra skill to have in the tool belt. And it's really cool and interesting to see people who are multi-talents like that. And on these time lapses, it's always cool to see where a change in direction was made.
Yep.
So like early on when it was still in the sketch phase, when all of a sudden his head would slightly change shape, or it would change position, or it would shift over to the side or go up, or all of a sudden I was looking a little more down. It's really cool to see that process in real time. That's one of the great benefits of time lapses.
Yeah,
It is.
even at the beginning, like when he changed like the arm and the weight of the body a little bit, I was like, ooh, that's a nice choice there. Like changed everything like, about the beast. Like you can feel like his power going through the pumpkin more. Like just because he changed, like it was the sketch, and you can see like the change in the arm and everything. Like adds a little
There's
more.
sometimes I'll look at a time lapse, man, and it's like I should have stopped there.
Yeah,
But I mean that's all part of the learning process as an artist, man. Like sometimes you, like you said, you overcompensate. It's like driving. Like you overcompensate, you get in an accident. You know, it's like, you know, as you're drawing, sometimes you keep rendering, you keep pushing it, and you know, there's times where I did it with a recent piece I was working to, Blood Ruth related, and I don't know how many times I drew her face. It was like over and over, and then I rendered a little bit, then it was over rendered. I was like, dang it. So I start over, and you know, so it's like it's one of those things like you know it when you get it. When you get, you know, and see what you guys don't know. I actually redrew this picture again, like the whole thing. This is the original, but then I actually redrew the whole thing again, like because I was like, let me try one more, and it was good.
Ever the perfectionist,
but it didn't have the face, and I drew it in the face, and the second face I drew was good. It was actually better, but it was missing something. It was like it was missing that.
Not color, right?
What would you say?
It was a missing color, right?
No, no, it was like something I just captured in his face the first time, man. That it didn't work the second time, and so you know that's one of the things. Like as you're going through the process of drawing and rendering, lighting is also important, which I always want to make sure of. But then you're telling a story, and so to me, if the story is not conveyed, if you can't feel the emotion, like, you know, when I did the pumpkin in my head, it made sense. I was like, that's kind of cool. Drawing it was stupid. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. It's dumb. I was like, that doesn't work. So you have moments like that in your mind it looks good. Once you start drawing, it's like, nah, that's too much. And then that's something I had to learn to do with this style. Scale back. Like, as you notice, the background has very little rendering.
Yeah.
If at all.
That way, all the focus is your focus is drawn.
Yep.
To Splatterpuss specifically, it's drawn to Ron.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm always looking at like Kanan's piece, and I'm like, man, like he renders everything like to the point where it needs to be rendered. Not like he doesn't go over the line or anything.
Yeah.
Like, it's very well rendered, but it's like to the limit of what you can render. And then you look at the background and like, I wouldn't be able to control myself. If I could render like him, I would render like everything. Like even the candles back there, like
I tell you what, man.
So many lines on that.
It was
the file would be huge.
But it's a learning curve, man. Like anything. Yeah. Like I'm sure as you know, when you were learning color and adding color, you know, both of y'all, you want to color everything. You want to add all these different colors and shades, but there's a theory that goes into it. So even with, like you said, the rendering, man, like there was this piece I did, probably like middle school, man. I rendered everything, every crack, cranny, line, and it was just so busy. And so when you start studying other artists, you know, I started looking at individuals like, you know, because I can't, like I said, came out the Jim Lee era. But then I shifted to studying. I remember part of the art journey, around 2000, I think, and probably 2001 or 2, whatever. I basically took everything and was like, I'm tired of, you know, looking like Jim Lee and people saying you draw like Jim Lee and blah blah blah. So I was like, I kind of threw everything to the, you know, the proverbial trash and started over. And then and it was advice that somebody gave me. He's like, just start drawing from life. Draw what you see.
Mhm.
And so I kind of, I did maybe in like 2 months, but and I went back to comic books. But what it did was it changed kind of my eye. So I started looking at Alex Ross
Right.
and learning shadow and balance and negative space. Learn how to use the negative space, stuff like that. He does it better than many.
Mm-hmm.
And then it took me to, I think it was Rags Morales. He did Identity Crisis,
Mhm.
and he was first person I saw that like used like actor references for his people. So like elongated man looked like this actor from like the 40s and 50s. His name was Danny Kaye. Looked like him younger. I was like, dude, that was just
White
like
Christmas.
him. Yes, it's
Bing
like
Crosby.
so, stuff like that, and then which led me to individuals like Brent Anderson who did Astro City, which was like it was a mixture of Alex Ross and the more comic style, and then it eventually led to my Bible, Mike Perkins. And if anybody ever wants to like see what my style kind of resembles, it's what he did in the Stand comic book. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, that's what I was looking for. So, and then it led to like, Olivia Coppell, Ivan Reyes, like all these different individuals. And then, and then so taking all of that, trying to add it to, stuff like that. That stuff constantly plays through I actually got a PDF of all their stuff that I just reference almost every day. It just kind of like find the happy medium between the two. So, when you guys, chat, you guys got to see, my process, man. That's, that's some Travis Charest in there, and there's some, there's a little bit of everything. So, it was fun.
That's awesome. Chat, remember, you will get Kanan's black and white piece for the Halloween Splatterpuss that you just saw if you are a Rippaverse member. So go sign up now. Let's swap on over to Marcos's piece that he did.
Yeah.
Marcos actually colored his piece. So you guys are actually we're gonna Tarantino this year. We're gonna start at the end. You're gonna see his fully rendered piece before we go into the sketch phase. And you know what? Yeah, considering how long that took, I can actually leave it.
It's like a couple seconds because that's how Clip Studio kind of renders the time lapses.
Yeah.
It shows the finished piece and then starts.
Oh, works in reverse, yeah.
Yeah.
So here's
Because
Marcos.
then at the end it stops.
Yeah,
that's
here's
cool,
Marco's
man.
piece of Lillian and Michael, two of my favorite characters we have in our universe so far. Yeah, Marcos, take us through your process on this as the audience gets to enjoy to see it from start to finish.
Well, you won't get to actually see it from start because I had forgotten to record the time lapse when I was doing the sketch. Andrew, I started off with the ink basically.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this idea, I started off with I think it was just Lillian by herself, and then I thought making her like trying to offer a plate of, not a plate, but like a pumpkin bucket of candy, trying to like entice you, like, come on, trick or treat, like, because she has this little magic stuff. But then I decided to add Michael because it made sense, and it started off with, I don't know if you remember, Andrew. I wanted to actually do them wearing a ghost outfit, like a blanket over Michael with the green eyes, because it made sense to me. It was kind of like a funny thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, like you had the witch Lillian with like a ghost, but then I was like, would people be really able to tell aside from the green eyes that it was Michael? So I decided to move on from that, and I ended up thinking about Frankenstein just because the suit and Michael's well, let's just say his handsome face, and decided to go with that and just change a little bit of the outfit. Ended up actually looking a lot like him. Ended up liking that idea. But then I think the perspective also started off different. I started off with initially them face forward, but then I came across. I was looking for some. Yeah, you remember, Andrew?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, where there was much more of a front shot, but then you shifted the perspective, and it turned out so cool.
There was no broom. It was just Lillian and Michael just randomly standing, which got me to think like that's not really. It doesn't really look like. It's very static. So I decided to search through some references online, see if I could find some inspiration for some cool poses, and I ended up doing these. It was really hard though because the perspective on this is like from below the warm view type.
Mm-hmm.
I had to. I spent quite a bit. Obviously, you can't see it here because the sketch was not. But I spent a lot more time than I thought about on the. I would on the with the pumpkin with the
Mm.
perspective because Lillian and Michael, okay, fine, they're standing right next to each other. The floor would be kind of diagonal in a sense, but the pumpkin was since it was in the foreground. I kept redrawing it until I like it took me so long, and then I had to think about how the open section of the top of the candy would look, along with the little what do you call the string where you grab it from, and the candy on the side on the floor, because you'll see that there's some candy on next to the pumpkin. But then the shading was also starting to take a lot because I was like, okay, it's kind of obvious that the lighting would have to come from behind them
Yep.
because the what I decided to do was ink it with the same technique that I've been learning from Kanan with a bunch of black, all the ink and the whites. Actually, did I don't remember. We'll see it here if the pumpkin had it. I don't think I inked the pumpkin the same way. I don't think I rendered. I think I just colored it or rendered it with color. But you'll also see that I don't actually apply that inking to the skin of the characters. You can see it here. It's just mostly the outfits and the textures of the clothing. Personally, it's because I'm still not there. I look at your stuff, Ken, and I'm like, damn, I want to reach that point someday to render the skins of the characters with the black. So I just did it with like, yeah.
I say it just depends, man. On like honestly, for women, I try to scale back just because
Do it soft.
it keeps the softer
Yeah.
look. So unless it's like stark lighting, like extreme lighting or something, you'll have shadows. There are some artists, man, that can still add the deep detail and shadow to the lady's face, and it looks amazing. So I'm still growing with you, brother.
Yeah. No, yeah, like I thought so hard about applying the ink to the skin on this, but it was like, man, I just can't get myself to it yet, especially with the angle, because I was like, how am I gonna do the knees
Yeah.
with the lighting reflecting on the back, and then on her face, which is more shadowed because of the hat,
Mhm.
as
Because
well
of
as
the
with
angle and the
Michael on the
light
hands.
source.
There is so
Yeah.
much going on already, like that you have to think about. Like the
Yes.
angle alone, it's so many boxes, so much perspective going on.
Yeah.
Like I'm just looking at it. I'm like, that's a tricky angle.
I was actually
Drawing
Yeah, the
women, especially from below, it's
Yeah.
always tough.
Yep.
Like my wife is
yeah, the
always
curves.
criticizing me for taking pictures from below because it's hard to look good from that angle. And I'm always like this. So drawing, like you did a great job there.
It was actually a good
Thanks.
decision, man, using color to actually define her, their skin rather than the dark
Yeah,
shadows,
the
because
ink. Yeah,
it breaks up the image and makes it unique and not monotonous. You know what I mean? So
it gives it kind of like a balance with the
yeah,
color and the ink in that sense. Yeah, see, you see what I mean with the pumpkin? I didn't actually ink it or render it the same. I just went straight for colors. Man, that pumpkin went through a lot, honestly. At first, it was like straightforward,
It did
flat.
not have a very gorgeous
Weather.
Oh man, it probably might be
I
the
love
same
the
pumpkin
Ripper bar.
from Spider-Verse. Sorry.
So sorry. Yeah.
but it works. I mean, like I said, it's a
Yeah.
perfect. Because I think honestly, if you rendered the pumpkin, it may have been too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, that's kind of yeah. Because I
so
was thinking if I inked it, it would probably take the focus a little bit.
Yep.
Because it would
Really
also mix into the
over-rendered.
black of Michael.
Yep.
Mhm.
Because
I
he's the
think
closest
it
to it.
immediately would become the central point.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's in the foreground, so the viewer's
Okay.
eyes are automatically going to get drawn to that first.
Yep. Yep.
And I think it acts the same way as like the skin, even in black and white. We were talking about like
Yeah.
how the skin color helped like differentiate, but I think even black and white, like the skin, the difference between rendering the clothes and the skin was perfect, like the perfect
Yep.
choice, because
Hmm.
the contrast comes from like not having everything filled out. That's
Right.
what I was complimenting
Yeah.
about Kana as well, because there's so much going on, but you can read everything. Like that's really tough to achieve. I did a great job there.
I added a little, I think, yeah, text above Michael that says, just go ahead, like trick or treat. It's supposed to be like
Mhm.
a teasing little, picturing
Mm.
Oh,
Lillian saying it,
I can see that
because
there.
she's like questioning, she's kind of like enchanting the pumpkin, like, go ahead, treat or trick or treat, you know?
Mhm.
But
Gotcha.
I wanted to add it as a bubble, but Andrew told me that you want to just keep these without like dialogue, so I just
Right.
went for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
I
it'll
added in the background
it
just as a sneak.
yeah, I think it facilitates being a mobile wallpaper far better
Hmm.
without the dialogue
Yeah.
bubbles. So,
I
and
appreciate
I
that
did.
a
this is
lot.
such a good piece too that like I would be genuinely angry with you if you like covered it up with some
props
dialogue
to
box. And
props
I don't
to
like
Andrew
that.
though. He gave me the idea about what like the color for the background and stuff that would pop the picture out. Because
Yeah, it's really good.
I asked him what would he think that I should do for the background. I didn't really want to. I'm the opposite of you guys. I'm not a big fan of drawing backgrounds. I'm just focused on the characters.
You're like most artists.
Yes, just Kanan and Igor here talk about they love backgrounds. Nah,
No,
Yeah.
I say I love backgrounds depending on what it is. Like
yeah,
I
and the
love
angle.
doing buildings and stuff like that. Yeah, but you know,
I thought about adding like a city in the background, like a dark night type of thing, but uh, it would have been too much black to the in the picture.
What you
And
trying
Andrew
to
told
say?
me it would make sense to add purple. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm just being me. That's all. You don't need any more information than that.
There's a little egg, by the way, on that with the candy bar on the floor. It's just
Yeah.
well, not an Easter egg, but kind of. It's called a Ripper bar. It's just a
Hmm.
Oh yeah,
future project, and maybe we could work on a candy bar or something.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that. I love
protein bar,
the Ripper bar. Right.
That
dude,
kind of stuff's fun.
Ripper
I
bar.
did a lot of that. I always use Mike Barron's last name, but like
Mhm.
in Search, there's like Barron cigarettes. And there's like
Yeah.
something on the side of the wall, and then I think the Soskas have their own theater in the lower
Yeah.
third, or whatever, of our Rippaverse. So yeah, it's good to explain you expand the universe, man, so people actually see
Yeah.
it's a real
Yeah.
place.
We get to populate
Yeah,
this
Yeah,
brand new world with,
yep,
new businesses, new
yep,
characters, new all sorts of stuff. And that's the best part of all this. We get to
yep.
create.
it's
We get
just
to take
fun.
the
Yeah,
things that we
Yeah.
love already and that other people love already and kind of repackage that and make it something fresh, something new, but familiar enough that our audience can say, I like this type of thing. I think I might also like that type of thing.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So that's one of the most beautiful things about creating an expanding comic book universe. We just the doors are wide open for creation and stuff that we can do. Fantastic work, Marcos, on that piece. Once again, chat, you will get access to that if you are a Rippaverse member, even at the entry level tier, $5 a month. That also gets you Igor's wallpapers as well that he loves drawing. He also that will also get you each
yes.
new standard cover issue of our Rippazine as it comes out. So that's one of my favorite things that we do here is the Ripazine. As a member, even at the $5 tier, you get the latest issue of that for free as well. So let's shift on over to Igor's piece here. So you guys get to enjoy that because his piece turned out fantastic as well. All
Yes, it
three of
did.
these pieces turned out so good. And chat, we'll put a poll in the live chat asking you which piece you liked the most, and then tell us in the comments why.
You know what I
Oh
love
yeah,
about this one? Like the having the theme It's so fun. Like we used to
Yeah.
do that on Facebook groups with artists, like collabs, or there was like monthly themes in
Hmm.
certain groups. Like drawing something related to that was so much fun. Even
Yeah.
though mine is like very loosely based on the theme, but yeah.
I think it works
It
perfectly
fits.
fine.
Yeah.
I love it. I specifically love. Well, we'll get into it, but I really do specifically love what you did with Sydney's powers there,
Yes.
creating the jack-o'-lantern. That was
Yeah, I
just
didn't even notice
great.
until now. The pumpkin. It's really
Yeah,
cool.
no, that's perfectly on brand as far as the Halloween theme. So take us through this, Igor, because this piece turned out so good.
Thank you. Well, yeah, I like the beginning sketches like there because it's gonna show like my thought process. I was trying to go like, yeah, she's gonna be holding a pumpkin and playing with the wolf like
Mm.
as a pet, and I was like, that doesn't work. And then I was looking at a lot of Alphonse Mucha. He's a Czech illustrator. Did a lot of Art Nouveau stuff. And I was like, yeah, that would be nice as a wallpaper because the stuff looks nice. Uh, like vertically, he has a lot
Hmm.
of ladies drawn, like very graphically, and it's very, very well done. So I wanted to do my own interpretation of that using Sydney. So I started with a sketch. Usually my sketches are a mess. My wife is always like because she's an illustrator as well. She's always joking that no one can read them, and then I would like turn that into something.
Well, we
But
can't tell by the finished product.
yeah, but after like the proportions are in, my process is very similar to Kanan. Like I have an idea of the light that I want, and then I'm gonna start rendering straight to ink because it saves time. Like if you
It
have
does.
to
So
if you
much.
have to render on pencil and then ink over that,
Gosh,
like
bro.
sometimes it actually save time because you think about that before, but
Yeah.
like digitally you don't have to worry about that at all. Like you can just go over. You're gonna see a lot of changes going on in these drawings, particularly the face. Kanan was talking about like changing Bloodroot's face a lot, and I did that a ton of times. Like in this piece, you're gonna see three three different sets of eyes or something like that. And I was looking at it, I was like, the proportions don't look right. She looks kind of wonky. I would change something. I would flip the image back and forth. Clip Studio
Yep.
doesn't show that, but I flipped this so much trying to get the face like right. And then I settled on something that I enjoyed. I, one thing that I would already change about this piece, even though it's very recent, was the hand pose resting over the wolf. I would use like just the tip of the fingers or something like that to create better movement
Oh,
because the
so
arm
like
looks like
when you're
straight.
scratching your dog, your cat's head,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, or something like that. And it's also very bloodproof
Hmm.
to have those the fingers out like using power. So I figured like she would do the same to the pets, like she would like scratch or something like that. Doesn't look right the way that I did. So that's something that I would change if you ask me. But yeah, I had fun like rendering the wolf. One of my favorite artists of all time is Bernie Wrightson. He was one of the creators of the Swamp Thing,
Hmm.
and he was so good at like hatching stuff. Anyone who's seen his artwork for Frankenstein, like his hatching and light is amazing. So it was an opportunity for me to hatch something like fur, add some texture to it. I had a lot of fun with that. The
Love the
wolf
fur,
is my
man.
yeah, the wolf is my favorite part of this drawing. Like, was excited to draw a creature as usual. But yeah,
Hmm.
I'm gonna change. I look at it now and I know why I changed the hat size. Like it looks oversized for her head. Looking at it now, and then I looked at it and I was like, yeah, that looks too big. Like very large hat on someone's head.
Really
But
too bad.
yeah,
I mean, like it's,
yeah, no, it looks.
You
You're gonna see when I change it. It's like okay, it was big.
It's like
That's-
Lady,
maybe a little
what's her
more
name
hair.
in Resident Evil
Yeah, she
8?
Or
needed
Lady
more
D.
hair.
Yeah, Lady
She
D.
definitely needed more hair. I ended up didn't doing not doing that because it was taking away from the negative space that I had.
mm,
I was
I
Mm,
like,
got
yeah, she needed more hair,
yeah.
but I draw myself literally into a corner here because I couldn't add more, otherwise it wouldn't breathe. There was
It
because of the
looks good
wind.
still, though.
Yeah, thanks. But there's always stuff to improve.
Oh
Like
yeah,
that.
I see what you mean with the hat.
Mhm.
Yeah, he made it
Yeah. You
smaller.
see,
Yeah,
you see, like make it smaller. I added more room around her because I'm gonna add the background, like some adornations or something like that. I don't know what's called in art when they do that, like, but there is a lot of extra stuff that goes in the background. If you see the references that I used from
yeah.
Mucha,
Okay.
he has a lot of details in the background just to add graphic shapes and stuff like that.
Just kind of fill
Right.
out the
Margins.
space just a little bit, and just enough too. Like you didn't overfill it with a bunch of stuff just to have it there. Like it just perfectly balances
Yeah,
it
but
out.
that's the hard part, right? Like, and then when it goes into coloring, you're gonna see that I struggle with that because I had an idea, but then the Bloodroof has like this very mute colors and
Mhm.
then red. So
Yeah,
Mhm.
like the red has to
very
pop.
earthy tones.
Yeah, and then just the red. So it's always tricky to see. You see, I even added like 3D head to
Yeah, I
see
saw
if
the,
it
Yeah.
would help me,
the
and then I
reference.
was like, man, the face doesn't look right, and the 3D head didn't help me. I was like, god damn it, let me do this again, and I
Some
erased and did it again.
something I want to note here that I think might go, I don't want to say necessarily unappreciated by others, but something they don't necessarily think about because they're not artists. But the difference in the way that you shade and render and hatch
Yeah.
different materials,
Yep.
right? You're the way, because you mentioned earlier you really enjoyed doing the rendering and hatching on the wolf's fur,
Yeah.
and that got me thinking, well, that looks completely different than the way that he,
Oh yeah.
hatched on the membrane wings, on her jacket, on her skin, the hat, all
Yep.
that. Because the leather material is, I guess the leather material will have more similarities to the membrane wings than anything else here, but it's going to look completely different from her skin, from the wolf's fur, and that's a detail that a lot of just fans, I think, like myself, wouldn't normally think about until they're getting to see the process itself like this. Because then you
That
actually can see the difference. Because ordinarily, we get this final awesome piece, and we're like, oh well, this is just a final awesome piece, and now it's gonna go, it's a wallpaper on my phone. But seeing the process gives a real appreciation, I think, for the level of thought and care that gets put into delineating that difference.
Yeah, that's all a balance, and I think it comes from like the restrictions of the medium, right? Like that we had
Mhm.
when we would ink. There's the 3D head. It's so funny for me. I was like, it didn't help.
You're like, "Ah, this
And
was useless."
I was trying not to erase it, to just like tweak, and I was like, yeah, you have to erase it, like do it again.
At
The
least it
eyes
moved by
changed,
fast.
but
Like,
yeah,
no.
I didn't zoom in on the video. I should have zoomed in so you can see the difference in the eyes because I changed it like three or four times. I tried to use the 3D head to see what was wrong
Mhm.
and didn't help, and then I changed it again. That's like a whole bunch of different setups. But yeah, like Andrew was saying, it comes with the medium, right? Like if you're thinking black and white, you have to make decisions based on that because back when we were printing comics, like traditionally, you had to make a decision. Like it was either black or white. Like they
Yeah.
didn't have, there was no in between. So hatching is the way to convey gray and graduation, and you have to use it sparingly
Yeah.
because you can run into a lot of troubles. If you look at the skin, there's very little, like there's basically no hatching other than like the
Yeah,
shadows for the abdomen
Mhm.
because there is no need for that. Like you're gonna take away from everything else.
Especially on a
Especially,
females body,
Well, I
right?
yeah,
think
Where you
a
don't
exactly. You
lot
wanna
of
don't want to do
over-render.
that. Yeah, yeah. You
people
really
don't understand. Sometimes
yeah,
when they choose a rendering style for hatching, you're not hatching for hatching's sake.
Mhm.
You're using it to define shapes,
yeah.
yeah,
depth, textures and things like that. And so you have people, and I've seen people that render. I'm guilty of that myself. Back when I was learning that style, um, you just render the heck out of it when it's not comprehensive. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It may look cool on the surface, but overall, it's like, but that's too much. Like, learn to scale back and pull back and let some of the lines breathe. Real quick, I was going to say about to colorists, what you do well, Eigor. And I noticed that before you started adding a lot of the colors, can you go back a little bit, Andrew, to like when you first started coloring?
Yeah.
That part right there, the overall tone, like that
Finding
right there
base
is,
colors.
dude, like I stress that so much to every colorist. Please establish a mood and an atmosphere first before you start at it, because if you notice what Eigor does, those that are colorists watching, even the colors he picks complements that undertone. It's a warm hue. There's the oranges, browns, then some of the yellows, but then yellow, purple is a complement of yellow, so it works. But everything is like cohesive. It's almost like what they call it, color balance. It's a color balance between everything, and you can tell with newer colorists, it may look good, but like you see every color. And that's not supposed to, does that make sense? Like you see everything, like, and it's like a kaleidoscope instead of like cohesive, like
because it is graphic, right? Like you have to make a decision about that. Like, but the clothes, the skin is that color. Because if you pick her skin and you separate it from her, it doesn't look like I wouldn't say black skin looks like that. Like because even in the comics, she's very like she has a dark complexion, and if I didn't choose the lighting for this, it would look very, very different, like almost dead, because it would be so mute. So it's basically orange, the color that I chose.
Yeah.
And no one's orange. Almost no one's orange. But you have to make those decisions based on the colors that you see around
We
it.
all thought it.
So it's that balance, right? Like you have, and that is something I take that compliment to my heart, because color is something that I studied so freaking much this past 2 years, because I had to color everything that I did, and I was never satisfied with it. And like I said, my wife is an illustrator and she's an amazing colorist, and she helped me a ton with like learning this. I'm still learning, obviously. I have 1,000 YouTube videos open right now on my tabs, all about color theory, exercises, and stuff like that. So it's always, it always like you're always growing. And it's funny because I used to do a lot of like soft shadows, soft like transitions, and thinking that that was what was going to improve my work. But it's actually about pulling back, the same as inking, like the same as like not adding detail to everything. You were talking about like rendering all the pieces when you were starting, and I was remembering my first sample that I showed Marvel and DC during that time. I had this brick wall behind Thor and Red Sonja, and I rendered like every brick.
Oh god.
Every brick. I was like, yeah, they're gonna see how committed I am that I've rendered every brick. And then it ends up like as a mess. Like we would draw on A3 boards, like so they're big, but when they print, like everything gets reduced, and all those little lines they turn into a mush. And you don't see it because who cares about the bricks on the wall behind
you?
you?
Care about Red Sonja?
yeah, it's about Thor and Red Sonja. Like that, no one cares about that. You have to. I love background, but you have to use it sparingly when it comes to detail. Like you have to be aware of what you're doing. I'm not a master of that in any shape or form, but it's something that you learn by looking at your past mistakes and listening to people. Right.
A good artist, I've come to understand, almost has a photographer's eye. And you kind of have to, because you have to know what your focal point is going to be, and then you can decide the kind of maybe diminishing focus for each thing that's in the background or each layer of the background behind them, because there's going to be, for every panel, and including on a full page, the thing that you want your reader's eye to be drawn to
Yeah.
Yep.
first,
Yeah.
primarily, right?
Yep.
And that's something that's a skill. It's a skill that can be learned and honed. Like our video editor Brian,
Yes.
or Philip or Jordan, like they all have
Yeah.
great eyes for that. And it's a really tricky thing and an impressive skill to build and hone and temper. But
Yeah.
it's always so cool to see that type of skill applied when it comes to comics, because I think
Yeah.
that's how somebody who's just a good illustrator can then take that and level up to something that's like, oh, you're not just a good illustrator, like you really understand layout and picture as a whole and on a much deeper level.
I think a lot of people don't give weight to just how important composition is.
Yeah.
Like it the push and pull of objects, you have the golden spiral effect, that you can use, the rule of thirds, stuff like that. But that stuff really does make a difference in your the things you draw. You mentioned, Andrew, as far as like setting up the camera shots, like cinematography, like that's Jordan and Phil and Brian, they do it all the time. And essentially that's what you do when you're creating a pinup or a poster. You're the director, and the producer, so camera angles, perspective, balance of color between lights and darks and warms and colds. Like, and it's funny because tone, like even if I'm not necessarily a colorist, I can color things, I can see certain things, but you also, even though you may not know exactly the terminology, you could tell when it's missing. It's like it looks cool, but it's either too much or sometimes not enough. Like, and sometimes they say it's better to err on the not enough than going overboard.
For art, I would say so.
Yeah, like it's important because sometimes those lines. There's an artist. I think his name is Clay Henry. I think that's his name. He works for DC. He does
Clayman. Yeah,
him too. Yeah, Clayman and Clay Henry. Clay Henry. He does. It's more almost like an animation type. Very, very. He rarely uses sharp angles. Like everything is curves, and so it has this flowy, very expressive nature to it, man. Like he'll add the darks and the lights and the shadow, but it's comprehensive. It's not he's just adding it, but it complements the line. And that's something I actually probably within the last couple of years had to kind of step back from rendering so much, man. It just looked messy and heavy. And I was just like, man, like let the lines breathe. Like sometimes it's good to just have line art, with maybe a little bit of etching, but having so much to a piece, man. Like I think that's the sign of a good illustrator, and you guys can attest to this, taking a lot of information but still making it readable.
Yeah.
Like if you have your audience needs to know what they're supposed to be looking at.
Yeah.
We're talking
it's almost
about
like speaking a completely different language.
Exactly. We're talking about comics and illustration, but even from concept, like that's one of the main things that has to be done, right? Like you can just add everything to a character and expect it to work. Like, oh, it's gonna look cool. I'm gonna add 3 machine guns and a sword, and like it has to be.
No.
What's the thing that we're supposed to be drawn to with this
pouches?
character?
Yeah, exactly.
Pouches,
That's the focal point. My wife is always saying that. Like she's an illustrator for background for games. What's the focal point? Everything is the focal point.
Like you give a character, give a character, man, that like wields no weapons and they got gun holsters. Like why?
Why would you do that?
Gun holsters?
Those are unfunctional, completely unfunctional, right? Thank you guys for sitting through and gaining the insight of the process of Kanan, Marcos, and Igor's Halloween themed pieces. Once more, all 3 of those will be available to Rippaverse members starting at the $5 tier. Make sure you take advantage of that because these are fantastic pieces. The guys worked really long and hard on them. That Bloodruth one is particularly in theme because Bloodruth's campaign or collection launched today. And make sure you head over to the collection page to pre-order that and all the goodies that come with that. There may be some additional Kanan White pieces involved with that collection. And another note, The Horseman Welcome to Florist Park by Chuck Dixon and Joe Bennett is still live. So make sure if you haven't pre-ordered that already that you do so. So let's shift gears before we get into kind of the critique corner, which we're going to be taking a fan art piece that's been submitted and have the guys kind of go through it, point out what they really like, point out some things that could be tweaked maybe to elevate it even further. It's a great piece that we all decided on, that we already like, but as we said at the top of the show, every single artist can always find something to improve upon. So we'll for sure have a good time going through that. But real quick, guys, let's run through who your biggest artistic influences are,
Man.
where you see their influence most on your work, and then how do you balance that inspiration that you get from your the guys that inspire and influence your work the most? How do you balance that with your own style, to create your own style so that it doesn't look like you mentioned earlier, Kanan, how you used to draw a lot like Jim Lee, and then at some point you realize, well, if guys want Jim Lee artwork, they're just gonna go to Jim Lee, right?
Yep.
So how do you create something that is wholly your own while still maintaining the influence and the things that inspired you? We'll start with you, Kanan.
That's good, man. It's kind of a catch-22, man. Like you I tell a lot of artists, that see certain individual styles. I was like, you need to glean from rather than assimilate. Glean from it and assimilate it rather than copy. And early on, it's okay to trace. It's okay to copy. It's okay to find an artist that you love, reproduce their work. There's a process of learning in copying that individual. You figure out, really sometimes just how to do muscles, how to do structure. But as you grow, then you need to figure out, okay, why did he go thicker line here, lesser line there? Why did he add rendering here? Why is it dark on this side of his face versus the other side? I can tell you, man, like that's a process that never really stops because, I think of some of the artists that we have books that are coming out and you see that fold and you're like, my God, like they get it. Like it just blows you away. So, which is kind of what made me start to gravitate toward, like I said, Mike Perkins was like my biggest influence. Ivan Reyes, Olivia Coppell, and those are more of the recent. The late John Cassidy, man, that dude was a beast. And then Michael Turner, like for detail and buildings, man. And I think one more I'm thinking of. So I mentioned Rags Morales, and then also Alex Ross. Like I have his mythology book, man. I just can't tell you how many times I just poured over that book and just the pages on how to render. So taking all that information, and that comes as you grow, taking all that information and then applying it to your own style should be the goal. Not to copy and reproduce. There's so many, as anybody who knew Joe Madeira at work, there's so many clones of Joe Mad. Like everybody is like the bigger bodies and
back then.
it's just like, okay, man, like I know you're a fan. Okay,
that works when it's Joe Mad.
Right, but you'll always be number 2 Joe.
Exactly. Your diet Joe.
Yeah.
Your diet Jim. Or your diet whoever.
And so it's one of the things like you the way you do that is well, I'm gonna say there's not like one way of doing it. The way I did it, man, was I would find the points and the pieces of that artist that I liked, and I would try to incorporate that. For Travis Charest, the way he does hair is amazing. Olivia Coppell, the way he renders with hatch mark and line to like create the face and man, but still uses like strong line weights and stuff like that,
Outlines,
and taking a lot of information onto one page and still making it readable. Mike Perkins, his use of shadow and reflective light. If you guys ever get a chance to look at his artwork on the stand, oh my gosh, bro, I was like, dude, that was like I said, that was my Bible. And then even Jim Lee, like speed and accuracy. He's one of the fastest artists, but in his muscle form is so sound, bro. It's like dude, like you just get it. So take bits and pieces of that, mesh it together, add it to whatever you're already doing, and then run with it. And don't try to be perfect. Allow the mistakes and the flaws. Artists, young artists, even seasoned artists, and then above all, like stay teachable, man. Like that's how you grow. So yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. You were talking about like Ivan Hayes' artwork, and I think the influences come from many different places, and that's what helps you differentiate from someone else, right? It doesn't have to be comics only. You can be other medium as well,
Yeah.
like games or cinema, whatever it is. Because with the internet, we have so much that like we can draw inspiration from many different. That's why I like doing this piece, because I was like, yeah, I want to draw inspiration from a different type of art. Like let's take a different period, Art Nouveau, and draw like in that style, but using a comic book style, because I think that helps a lot to build your own like a career and style as a comic book artist. I feel like artists worry a lot about style, and if they worry less about both style and time, they would get better at both, like instantly. Because time, like something that you learn by practicing, and style is something that like it's your taste. That's basically what it is. It's your visual library. Like you were talking about, look at the way he does line,
Right.
like the line weight, and that's what you need. Like you need to look at it not only as a fan, but why do I like this? Why do I like this piece? Why do I like Olivier Coipel? In my case, like I'm a big fan of his. I love the way, and that's something that I'm actually trying to learn right now, like balance the outlines and the inner lines, like because he's so good at that. That's something very specific about an artist, and you can see that in other artists. So no one's gonna attack you, say that you're plagiarizing, like Olivier Coipel because of that, or like the Dun 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 manga that does the same thing, like with like tiny lines and then the larger outlines. That's everywhere, right? But you can take that little piece of this,
Right. It's
little piece of
okay.
that, right? Like that's okay.
Yeah.
No one's gonna blame you for that. That's what every human being, every artist does. Like we take from here and there, and then we mash together into our own like style. Like I was talking about Bernie Wrightson, like he would be my biggest influence. Like his work is like there's no one equal to me. But at the same time that I enjoy his work, I enjoy Kentaro Miura, the author of Berserk, rest in peace, and I enjoy also like Art Nouveau from. So you don't have to drink from one cup, like you can drink from many different fountains, and then find your art style in between. They don't have to be the same and all together. Like Bernie Wrightson was one of my favorite artists, and recently I've been in love with Jorge Jimenez, which who is like an artist for DC. He did Nemesis for Mark Millar. Like his style, their styles are completely different. Like Bernie Wrightson and but you can take from both. Like one
Menace is one of my favorite modern artists.
is really good. Dan Moore, like it's not
Yeah, oh my
like
God.
my work.
I've
Like my
got
work's
a buddy
nothing
who
like that.
adores Dan Moore.
Yeah, it's really good. Like you can learn and still look different. Like
Yeah,
there's always something to learn and look different. Like style is not something that I worried about because a reference is not something that I had when I was working. I didn't have a computer, so I
yeah,
had to work on my own. So you had to take from memory.
I
So
got
you end up discovering your own style because of that. Nowadays with Pinterest, you can be a little tough. So sometimes if you feel like you're leaning too much into something, just Google something else. Like
you.
go for a different artist, add something different to your reference because that's gonna help you like differentiate because you're gonna see other stuff that you like and end up not copying so much
Yeah,
because copying is alright, but you need to stop at some point. If it's getting out of hand, close all your tabs, go draw
yeah.
on a notebook, go look at something real, like take your sketchbook
It's like
and go
touch some
outside.
grass.
Yeah, touch some grass and draw some people on the streets because
Exactly.
the way you interpret reality,
Yeah.
that's what matters, like how you're going to tell that story that you're seeing. And sometimes you really need to take a step back
Yep.
from the influence of other artists and like just do your own stuff.
There's a beauty, man, in just really capturing somebody says sometimes the simple moments that don't, as an artist, that don't take a lot of detail, that don't take a lot of, like, sometimes, it's negative space, and that's
Yeah.
actually something I wouldn't mind, like, really playing on more so. Like, I always when I if I had like that gray paper, and you had like the white little charcoal pencils and stuff,
Hmm.
I'd be lost. I'm like, where do I start? Because it's like how do I pull the white lines in the shadows out of that gray? And some people do it, man, immaculately. Like it's mind blowing. But like you said, those little simple traits and characteristics, man, that you can put to your style, man. And like I say, you may not don't like you said, don't worry about being stylized right away. Um,
Hmm.
that's something that comes over time. I mean, everybody has a voice, everybody has an art style, and they will definitely push, to kind of have their own niche in time. So, but yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. What about you, Marcus?
I honestly, something I forgot to mention earlier in terms of my journey. When I was in college, I had basically probably the biggest a mentor basically of my art for the entire 6 years I was in college, which is basically when I figured out that I didn't know how to draw. Because once that professor, he became a friend basically, so a mentor. So
That's awesome.
once he taught me how to like do anatomy, because he taught me everything from illustration, from perspective, color theory, cartoons more specifically too. That's why my art, my style, usually you can tell a little bit of have some cartoonish elements. His name, obviously, he's not like a big like person known around the world or anything. He's just known around here on the island of Puerto Rico, but he's very old right now. He's Alfredo, basically Alfred in Spanish. But he was my influence throughout like the early stages of my recent like probably art. I was gonna say style, but it's more just like overall the essence of my art,
That's awesome.
just the style. But yeah, so I'm not really gonna mention big names like that. But other than him, I started before the Rippaverse while I was working on commissions and stuff for random people online. I used to watch a lot of Jim Lee. Now, since you
Hmm.
mentioned him as well, Kanan, because he would do art streams on YouTube
Yep.
where he would just stream his process drawing Batman and just inking.
Mhm.
And I took a lot of influence from that because that's when I got interested in just doing inks.
Yeah.
But I never really got well into it until I met you here, Kanan. So you are actually a bigger influence right now than any of the other ones right now.
That's
And it's
awesome.
like you said, I'm not. There's it's nothing about copying or anything. It's more like applying, learning from you and stuff. Because at first it seems like more like mimicking, but it's more
Mhm.
just the
Yeah.
learning. Because
Yeah, it's taking what
even with
you
the time
like and
lapse,
what works from one artist and trying to apply that to your own style.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
exactly. You could kind of see that in that time lapse piece that I did with Lulian and Michael. Because regarding the applying, the way that I did the lines and then the inking, and then separated with the coloring and all that stuff. But yeah, it's not really. It's all about mixing. Like, can't really add more to that. You've already pointed it out so well. But yeah, that's basically it. The main three influences that I've had over the past few years. My my college mentor. We had a little bit of Jim Lee here and there, and then Caden,
Kanan. Yeah,
the
there
big
you go.
Caden.
Can do better than that.
I don't know if I could pick somebody better than Kanan to
Yeah.
influence my work if I could draw worth a damn. So, you know,
Well,
maybe one of these days I'll pick the pencil back up from my high school and college days and
I
try to not
mean,
embarrass
we
myself.
we got a lot of artists in the Rippaverse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Kara,
not a lot of people know.
Carol and
Jordan can draw as well.
Jordan. See,
Uh,
see it. See Igor. They trying to.
Kiara can draw as well. Yeah.
Yes.
If you go, yeah.
And Andrew.
And
I
Andrew.
don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. NDA.
Well, we've heard that Eric can draw as well, but we haven't seen the sketch.
Only Marcos
has.
has seen that though.
Hashtag release the sketch.
You're right.
Hashtag release the
Yeah,
Eric
Eric
sketch.
sketch,
It's been a while since we've dropped that. Well, guys, thank you for sharing your influences and for the fantastic discourse during that, because it really is important to be able to take what you're inspired by
Yeah.
and work that into something that's still you, right? This goes for artists, this goes for writers, it goes for character creation, it goes for a lot of different things. Kind of amalgamizing the things that you're inspired most by and influenced most by, repackaging that into something new, something fresh, something that's yours. That way you're not just Dollar General Jim Lee or Diet Mark Silvestri or something like that, right? Instead, you're
Discount.
you. Yeah, you're somebody is going to you because they want you, not because they want somebody who kind of looks like Jim Lee but doesn't charge as much, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's it's far more valuable
Yeah.
to have somebody coming to you because they like your style, they like what you are doing specifically, the decisions you're making, as opposed to your work just looking like someone else's, right? And I think that's a phenomenal thing, and the discussion was fantastic. Let's shift gears into our, like I mentioned before, our critique section.
Cool.
So we're gonna go through a piece from the Yaira fan art contest, and this was done by a great guy in our space. He's been doing fan art of a lot of our Rippaverse characters. Gosh, since ISOM 1, really.
Yeah.
And he always puts out great pieces. He posts them and tags us constantly on the social media, and it's always fun to see his work. And it's fun to see how his work has also progressed,
Yeah.
just like y'all's has, in such a
Yes,
short
sir.
period of time. But I mean, honestly, when y'all are drawing as much as you are, it's kind of impossible not to improve, right? Because you're constantly
Mileage.
honing. Like, it's
Yeah.
the more you run, the faster you're going to get. The more you lift, the stronger you're going to get, right? So you're exercising that muscle. The more you use your acceptability, the better it'll get, you know? So let's bring up this fantastic Yaira piece by a fantastic artist in our space and part of our Rippaverse fandom, by Philip. So
Man.
guys, take us through what you like about this piece, some of the decisions you think were particularly cool, what you think you would tweak to elevate and improve it even more. What Have at it. Y'all are the actual artists. You know what you're talking about, and I'm just here to pretend to be smart.
You want to go first, Igor or Marcos? Either one.
Yeah, sure. I really like the plane separation. So there are elements in the foreground pointing at her, so you can see that like there's readability already. There is like middle ground, background. that the stuff that I like the most about Philip's space is the line work. Like
Mm,
his line quality is very precise.
His lines
He
are super
knows,
clean always.
yeah, it's super clean. Dream job for any colors that gets his work because he
yes.
also does gray scale before he goes into color. So like anyone that gets to color his work can like
Yeah.
basically have fun because the hard work is already done, and you can use the magic wand to select everything because the line works so tight,
He's already
right?
figured out the light source and all that.
Yeah, exactly. Like everything's sorted out. You can have fun. You can try a different mood or something like that. If we're gonna go into critiquing something, I would change the difference. Talking about planes, I would differentiate the weight that either the blacks have.
Mm,
So there you can see a soldier to the left of Yair, still black. So I would like tone it down, maybe turn that into a gray or a blue color or
mm,
something like that, just to make it read better. Even the truck behind her, it looks really cool, but sometimes artists run into the fear of like not being able to read everything, and it's okay. Like people will read. The focus is Yair,
yeah.
so you can everything else can take a step back. And the same way that you pull back on the contrast for the stuff that's in the background, you can do the same with the foreground. You
Yeah.
can darken things up because stuff that's closer to the camera will usually get more definition and look darker. So you darken things up so the middle ground pops. So Yar would pop a little bit more. It's already very, very easy to read because he chose very carefully the colors that you would select. But I think that if you tweak things a little bit, you can add more contrast to it, make everything like read better, and add some briefing room. Even though there are a lot of elements, if you like tone down the background, you don't have to change anything. Basically, it's just about like tweaks,
Yeah.
and I think it would look like perfect because it's already amazing. I love the action lines coming
Yes.
from like the drawing everything in. You feel like you're part of the action, like you're about to get punched by AI or something like that. I really
I
love
like
that.
pieces when they actually feel like they have movement.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
It's one
exactly.
thing
Like
to
they
have
can
everybody
still,
standing around striking a great hero pose, but movement is what makes
yeah,
something look
exactly.
like
There's
an
something,
actual part of the
there's
project.
energy. Something's about to go down. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you can feel that. Yeah, that's very cool.
yeah. What do you think, Marcos?
Say, I'm a big fan of these because his way of cell shading,
Yes.
Mhm.
it pops out, you know?
Yep.
Like I tend to use cell shading on my pieces as well when I just focus on coloring because especially on my recent concept art stuff, I just cell shade to make things a little simple. But the way that Philip does it is just I've always thought it was like just I don't know impressive, you know. And in terms of critiques, though, I don't really like. The only thing I'm kind of slightly confused about is the SWAT, the car in the background, the
Mm,
angle with
yeah.
Yara. I'm not really sure if the floor underneath it, because I don't know. The shading makes it seem like it's kind of flat in the background, but then on the left there's a little bit of background in the distance. Sorry, there's a motorcycle passing by. It's mostly just composition. The thing regarding the car, and my God, sorry about that. Anyway, I noticed the shards coming into the screen, like she's throwing the ice at us.
Oh
But
yeah,
I was thinking about where it was coming from because
Mm,
the position of her hands. I thought
right.
maybe he could
not
tweak
throwing. Yeah.
something about that. But that's just composition, though. The in terms of technique itself is fine. Like it's
Yeah.
just little tweaks like that. And the only other thing I could think about is her hair. Isn't he didn't do
Mm,
anything wrong with it. It's just that character specific. When Yaira's like usually powering up and throwing stuff, her hair kind of like glows up and I don't know, like spreads out
Flows
like
around.
tentacles
Yeah.
and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
like
also
The
it's
also
hair could
nice. So
have a little bit more movement to it.
Yeah, it's not so static, is what I'm saying. Yeah, maybe
It
that
also always has the potential, right?
a
Like
flow.
because the graphic, is a graphic element, so you can always like
Mm-hmm.
use it to your advantage. Like the hair can be a part of like a graphic design or a silhouette or something like that. Can
Exactly.
help
Same,
bring that.
similar to like how he did the skirt. It's all like
Yeah.
spread
Mhm.
out like that. Just little
Yeah,
tweaks
the
like that.
skirt
Yeah.
has good movement. The skirt has good
Mm-hmm.
movement there. We like good movement on skirts. And the hair should
Oh, there
match that.
Andrew goes.
So
Yeah.
good
That's
call out,
yeah.
Marcos.
That's all I have to say about it. I'm a big fan.
Oh yeah, Philip's work has been stellar since ISOM 1's fan art contest, and
Very
he's
good.
only improved. He's only
Oh my
improved.
god. Yeah.
But that's not to say that improvements can't still be made. That's
Oh yeah.
what we were talking about earlier.
100%.
Always level up, always get better. Kanan, what about you? What do you think? What do you like about the piece? What would you tweak?
The biggest thing I like is definitely how he colored it. Like it reminds me of this uh, comic back in the day. It was called what was it called? Oh oh man, it was like it was an anime manga, Dark Minds. That's what it was called back in the day. And the way they rendered it was almost like really soft, almost muted tones, and I love the use of almost like not pastel, kind of pastelish
Yeah.
colors he picked for Yaira, and that it has an overall kind of violet, like bluish violet tone to it, which really pulls like all the colors together. It's kind of like the color balance we were talking about earlier. Um, I love her expression. I love how stylized her face is. Um, Good proportions. Love how he rendered the truck. It's amazing. Love the city. Subtle, but you can tell it's back there.
Yeah.
You can tell they're on their street level. Um, Critiques. I think Marcos mentioned the ice shards. It's kind of hard to tell that she's actually throwing them, as opposed to them actually look like
Yeah.
they're coming toward her, almost like she's getting shot with ice instead of the one throwing it. You guys mentioned the hair. As artists always keep in mind that the hair or the background is also a character. So, showing movement in the hair actually adds to the movement of what she's doing. I would probably tilt her a little bit so she's not leaning as much. And I know but she's stepping away or toward the she's kind of looks like she's kind of turning.
Just
But I would
Looks like she's trying to avoid the gun barrels.
yeah, but I would probably
Yeah.
tilt her just a little bit, so her,
Find
just
some
her,
balance, right?
yeah.
Because she's still touching the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's not flying, so
Exactly.
The
And
skirt.
plus it would stop the tangent with the barrel in her thigh.
Yeah.
yeah.
I was gonna say the skirt makes it look like she's landing, like from the
Yeah.
movement
Oh, I see.
on
Yeah,
her
that
foot, on
makes
her
sense.
feet. But the hair, doesn't like balance evil
Evil
tangents.
Marco mentioned the truck. I think sometimes the way he rendered it, like before, I actually didn't realize that that the truck was being thrown. I thought we were looking down on it and that we were actually on the ground.
Yeah.
So it kind of threw me off. And I think that's just kind of how he drew the shadows and stuff. Because if I didn't see the city back there, I would actually thought that the cops were elevated, pointing down at her as she's turning. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, the truck's flipping, right?
yeah, it's being thrown. It's like rotating. But
Yeah.
like at first when I
But
saw
the
it, I
shadow,
thought you were looking down on her. But other than that, man, like the motion, stunning, love it. And maybe the arm, the left arm or right arm, our right, her left, her right, our left, I should say. maybe make it look like it's a little bit further back, because I know he's trying to give the impression of it being pulled back.
For sure.
Yeah.
Then.
Yeah, almost like when Gambit throws his cards,
Yeah.
kind of vibe. Which you could change the arcing of the ice, so actually instead of going back like that, it would actually rotate in front of her. I think that would be more effective.
hmm
Kind of like you throwing ice.
And that would add to the
Kinda like that.
movement aspect that y'all were talking about earlier.
Right.
with
Yeah,
into
exactly.
Her
Like
Right.
icicles,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it looked there would be kind of that more fluidity and consistency in
Exactly.
terms of what the actual process would be with her shooting the ice.
That's
Because it's
a
not
really
like
good
she's
point.
just generating ice from her eyeballs or something, right?
Right.
So,
And I know he's like I guess she's kind of throwing it overhand. That's the
Yeah.
only kind of confusing part. But other than that, guns look amazing, bro. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's nuts. But yeah, other than that, man, like I love her face. I love how stylized she is.
That's a Yaira expression.
Yeah, it's Yaira all the way, man. I'm always
I
a
think-
stickler fan for and that's just myself and having you know critique the character with other artists but her size, like she's 6'3".
Yeah.
Have you ever seen? And
Damn.
I actually drew a body type for one of the artists or the artist of Yaira. I was like, reference this, because if you seen like a WNBA player, she's 6'3". There's a noticeable difference, versus somebody
That
who's like
stature, that
5'7",
physique,
yeah,
yeah,
or even
is-
5'11". Like that's 6'3". Like you're usually like basketball players, kind of smaller head, but since she's big, like a good example, the model that played her, like she's perfect.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
so,
Oh, yeah.
like always keep that in mind. Like Yaira is not 5'7", 5'6". She's 6'3". She's like Big Barda, so
Yeah.
she's gonna be like an imposing figure, so but other than that, man, like I love it, man. I love his work, love his
My
style.
only other thing is that, and I only noticed this while looking at it with y'all. Obviously, all of the above of what you guys said, because you're the actual artists here. Um, I just get to witness the skill happening before me. But he was really good about delineating the layers,
Yeah.
with the exception of one point for me. And feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, but in that space in between her abdomen on her left and her arm,
Mm.
that that side view mirror looks like it's far too foreground comparative with the rest of the truck.
Oh, I see.
Oh, the little yeah.
The front of yeah, I can see that.
Right, that looks like it's maybe only inches behind
Hmm.
her rather than
Oh,
single
further
feet.
back, yeah.
Yeah.
For scale purposes, yeah.
True.
But other than that, like,
Yeah, that
yeah.
that goes along with what we said. Yeah, with the car, because it's kind of confusing a little bit.
Yeah, Philip,
I wanted to say,
if
I
you
think
end up
I
watching this,
noticed.
great work.
Yeah, no. Like, I wanted to say that I think I noticed maybe what he was going for. And I just noticed the ice behind her right leg. That maybe she's
Oh,
like
yeah.
Yeah, it's lifting the
skating,
truck.
like
Yeah.
skating.
Hmm.
Then maybe she
Oh,
was
I
skating towards us, and then the truck is like a lifting in response to her, like flipping it from the back,
Right.
and now she's coming
Yeah,
towards
yeah.
it.
So maybe as she was
And
skating
that's why the
towards
shards.
these guys, she flipped the truck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and then the shards are coming from her, like the force of her movement, like coming towards us. That's kind of because if you look at the flow of the energy from her right hand, it kind of implies that it's coming from behind. Yeah, the little blue light.
Even if he actually eliminated that leg dropping altogether and had her leg back, that would actually
Yeah.
give her the appearance of flying toward us.
Yeah.
And I think that would
The
actually
hair also makes sense like that because it's straight backward from the direction she's coming from. If that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
True.
No, that makes perfect sense.
that's cool.
Guys, in the chat, what do you think about this piece? Obviously, a lot of you, if you're on social media, you've seen Philip's work for the last couple of years now. And I'm sure a lot of you appreciate it just as much as we do. But let us know in the comments and let us know in the chat. what you thought about the guys' critique of this piece. If you yourselves have any additional thoughts and critiques that you would like to share with us, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Shoot, Philip's on social media. Let him know as well. The dude clearly has a desire for continued growth and improvement because his
Absolutely.
pieces,
For
as
sure.
good as they were in the beginning, they're demonstrably more so now. So if we can just all elevate each other, that's only a win for comics. That's only a win for fandom. That's just a win for all of us involved overall. So, Philip, thank you so much for sharing your fantastic Yaira piece with us during the Yaira fan art contest.
Indeed.
And
Yeah.
thank you for being such a fan, like a genuine fan. That means so much. I'm sure to Marcos, who designed these characters, to Kanan and
Of
Igor, who
course.
also draw these characters, to the writers like Eric, who created these characters, conceptualized them. Seeing
Hmm.
people take time out of their day and dedicate their craft, something they're honing, uh, with works of characters we've created here. That's such a cool
The
experience, such
best.
a cool
Like
feeling.
that's always gonna be my favorite. Like the fan
Yeah,
art is
right.
always gonna be take the cake. Like there's
It's so
nothing
cool to
cooler.
see everybody's different takes
Of
on these
Yep.
characters.
So I always like to remind Marcos, man. He's telling me, like, dude, that's your designs, bro. Like that's like they're
Yeah.
alive, like, bro. And that is that to me. Yeah, every time, with the exception like Horseman and like some of the other ones NDA that are coming out,
Mhm.
the ones that he did have a hand in, man, like, dude, like it's to see him come to life, man, and see people constantly reproduce that, bro. That's
Animated,
huge.
like
Yes,
different
exactly.
mediums. Like
Yeah, even
that's
in
Yeah.
fucking
animation,
crazy. Live action. Like
Yeah.
that's so cool.
that it's
Dude,
it's got to be mind
the
blowing.
first time I the first time I saw Yaira done officially as art for the first comic for Isom, because before Isom 1 launched, Eric called me, like Vira called me just to show me like samples of the stuff of the comic, the cover. He showed me cover A, and he showed me the drawing of Yaira that was at the final page. I was like, oh my! I didn't know what to say. 'Cause we were in a video call. I was like, how do I hold my emotions here a little bit because I don't want to look weird. It was one of the few times that I actually had camera on too. So,
Yeah.
but
Crazy.
it's just nothing beats that, you know. And then seeing the results, all the other books come out, the live action, the trailer, it just, and then the statue that was probably
Yeah.
the most.
Yeah,
Oh
man.
man, that
Yeah.
that McFarlane statue,
That's
chef's
crazy.
Like
Yeah.
the
which
like
is
it's
still
something.
available to pre-order right now on Rippaverse.com.
Yes, sir.
What was crazy
Like
about the person who built that statue, bro? He made it look like Jen and Sylvia. Like if you combine both of their faces. I was like, how did you do that? Interesting.
Truly
it's
skilled and
ironic all the people
dedicated
that
at his
say that.
craft.
It's funny the people that say that though because I designed her with Eric way before the Sasukas were even in like
Yeah.
part of us, part of the team. So they didn't actually play a role into how she looks, in case anybody's wondering.
No,
Very
that's just
cool.
But
kind of
yeah,
how it
man.
panned out.
Yep. It worked.
And they're
It
the ones
worked.
writing her, so
Yep.
it's kind
Yeah,
of a cool
on
full
top
circle
of
thing.
Deborah, the artist, also looks like yeah.
Looking like
She
Yara. Yeah.
does.
We
Everybody
got,
looks like Yara, and
yeah, put all three of them combined, and we've got Yaira right there.
all
Guys,
four
thank you so
actually.
much for your time. Chat, thank you so much for your time, your support, all the love that you show for what we're building here at the Rippaverse. You guys are the greatest fans in the world,
Yes,
bar
we are.
none. It's not even close. Make sure you guys go pre-order Bloodruth #1 right now, live on our collections page. Make sure you pre-order if you still haven't done so already. The Yaira statue, the young Isom statue based off of Kanan White's own cover D Isom 2 artwork, and make sure you pre-order Horseman Welcome to Florist Park as well. So we've got a lot more coming down the pipeline for you guys. We've been saying it since the beginning, and honestly, it's probably going to feel that way for another year that we are just getting started. We have so much more coming down the pipeline for you guys, stuff that we are bursting at the seams to be able to lift these on.
Yes.
You can partially blame me, only partially. We'll get there. I'm in your guys' corner, I promise, most of the time. So thank you so much for all the love and support. You guys are the best in the world. The Horseman has only been as successful as it has been because of you.
Absolutely.
All of our books have only been as successful as they have been because of you. We as a company are only as successful as we are because of you guys. That's the beauty and the tough spot when it comes to truly independent creation. We rely
Yeah.
solely on y'all's support, and you guys have showed up and shown out love every single time. I cannot thank you all nearly enough. Remember that if you sent in any super chats or left any super chat comments, whatever the heck YouTube calls them these days, we will address those and respond to those in the next episode of this podcast. Um, any closing thoughts from you guys, you gentlemen? Thank you so much for hanging out with me and hanging out with the Rippaverse fans.
It was fun. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Hope you guys
Next
liked
episode of Dragon Ball. Sorry.
He said
Next
next episode.
time on
Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball Z.
No, it's you guys are, like Andrew said, you're amazing. Creatives, keep creating, man. You're only as old as you think you are. We've created a space here, and I'm sure as it expands, opportunities are going to open for more creatives and more artists to join the fam. And just draw your best, man. Put your best stuff out there. If you get snagged up by the big two, go hard. If you snagged up by us, we expect the same. Go hard.
Yeah.
Everybody is raising the level, we're raising the bar, we're growing, we're expanding creatively, yes, as a business, but more so creatively, man. Like, Eric is writing, Chuck Dixon, Saskas, even some of our other individuals have NDAs that they're working on, and it's exciting, man. Like, so, yeah, just keep going. Chat. Thank you for those who follow me up to this point. Myself, Eigor, and Marcos. Like, we're forever grateful. You are making this job fun again.
Yeah,
and it's been a long time.
We've talked about how fun
100%.
this job
Long time.
is. Yeah.
So
It's all because of the fans, right?
yes, indeed.
Closing thoughts, Igor?
Oh, like Kanan was saying, like we cannot be grateful enough for like the job that we have. Even like hanging around and talking, like our meetings are always so fun. So
Yeah.
like so this is not this is a job, but it's not like
It's not work. It's
work.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
very fun. Like hanging out with everyone. Like even like we're all far apart from each other, but we're constantly in each other's lives, sharing like personal milestones, something that we liked, photos of dogs, cats, anything
responsible
like
Food.
for many
Kids and
dog
cats.
episodes.
mainly dogs. But yeah, so it's fun.
Don't forget the
I hope we
pizza.
can do this. Yeah, the pizza, babies. But yeah, we can do this again, and hopefully we have a lot to talk about. Like we talk about so much during our meetings, before and after they're done. So there is a lot we can talk about. I hope we can help other artists like
Yeah.
find their footing, even if it isn't professionally, like as a
Yeah.
hobby. Art is important in a lot of people's lives.
I agree.
Most of our readers are not artists, and they
Yeah.
find like solace in the comics that they read. I was having fun with comics before I was a comic book artist.
Yeah.
So there is no point in like bottlenecking. Like this is only for artists. Like this is for everyone. If you have a question or a curiosity about anything, like feel free to send a question, send a message. We're gonna make sure we reply to everything we can the next episode. That's it.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. Marcos, closing thoughts.
Yeah, no, I'm just as grateful as everybody else. Like, this has been probably the best thing to ever have happened. Probably not just in my life, but for everybody that's involved, be it in the company as well as
Yep.
fans. This has been
Yeah.
probably like, if you told me when I was growing up that I would end up working my dream job at just making comics and drawing for a life,
Mm.
like, I would have probably never believed you, because everybody would just always tell me that that's not the way to go. And yet here we are, probably with the best, like, we're like a family with the best fandom as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yep.
yeah, and yeah, just thanks for having me as well. I'll always be grateful to you guys and to Eric as well for, giving me this opportunity to work with such
You all
amazing
are.
people.
Yeah.
You are all amazing. You're all phenomenal artists, and you keep getting better every single day. And it is, as creative
Thanks.
manager, a true blessing and honor to be surrounded by such a talented group of people. Whether it's y'all, Jordan, Brian, Philip on the video side, the writing team, Caro, Kara, everybody here is so immensely talented at what they do, and it is a blessing and a privilege to call you all not just teammates but friends and family. So thank you
Indeed, man.
all for
Indeed.
us all elevating each other to continue to be great. You guys are the best. And chat and Rippaverse fans, you guys are the best.
Yes.
Make sure you check out all of the currently active collection links. Those will be in the description below. And if you guys have ideas for what you think the next topics of discussion should be, or maybe even the next fan art pieces that we critique on next episode, drop those suggestions into the comments, drop them into the chat. We'd love to hear from you guys. And until next time, this is ND Andrew and the phenomenal Rippaverse art team. We're signing off. Thanks, guys.
Peace out. We didn't link the socials, did we? Because like Jordan suggested, but I don't think it'll be necessary.
What does Jordan know?